My brother's psycho girlfriend literally kicked my dog in my own house. And now, after the two of them asked me to move in, I told them they're not welcome in my house after that incident, sparking my brother to say that I need to let it go and that his girlfriend didn't do it on purpose, even though I literally saw her do it. So right now, I'm wondering if I'm overreacting or if I'm the jerk in this situation, because this is really blown out of proportion and I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, to set the scene, I'm a 30-year-old male and I have a dog who I will call Charlie, who's an 8-year-old golden retriever. He's an absolute sweetheart and has been with me since I adopted him as a puppy. My brother, let's call him Dan for the sake of the story, has been dating this girl who I will call Emma for about a year now. I've met Emma a few times and to be honest, I've always had a weird vibe about her. But nonetheless, I've always tried to be polite. Now, here's where the real issue started. Dan and Emma came over to my place last weekend and we were hanging out in the living room having a good time when Charlie came over to us to say hi. He's very friendly and he loves attention. So he started wagging his tail and nudging Emma for some pets. Emma, however, seemed irritated by this and immediately pushed him away, telling him to stop being so clingy. I thought it was a bit rude, but I figured she might just have been having like a bad day or something like that, so I just brushed it off. Then later on, Charlie came over, and this time, when he tried to sit next to her, Emma literally kicked him away. I was in shock and I asked her if she was okay, and she just laughed it off and said she was getting annoyed with the dog. Now, I was furious, but I didn't want to make a scene, so I just calmly told her that she shouldn't be treating my dog like that. She seemed a bit taken aback, but I didn't think it was a huge deal at the time. Later that night, Dan and Emma told me they were looking for a place to stay, as Emma had some family issues at home, and they were hoping to move in together. Dan then asked if they could stay at my place for a while, and I said no, because frankly, I was really upset about how Emma treated Charlie. I explained that I didn't feel comfortable with her in my house after what happened. I didn't go into detail, but I made it very clear that I just wasn't okay with how she acted. Dan then got super upset and called me unreasonable, saying it's not like she kicked Charlie on purpose, and that I should just get over it. He then said I was being dramatic and that I shouldn't make an issue out of something so small. He even suggested I should put my dog outside if I didn't want Emma near him. Now, I've been called protective of my dog before, but honestly, I feel like I have every right to be upset. I've had Charlie for years and he's part of my family. I don't think I should have to choose between my dog and my brother's girlfriend, but I also don't want to create family drama. So am I the jerk in this situation for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend move in after she kicked my dog? What should I do? Bro, there's no way in a million years that lady would ever come into my house ever again. Like, first of all, I think you're absolutely underreacting. Like, this is seriously not okay. But also, the fact that Dan is trying to gaslight you and be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. She didn't even kick him on purpose. It's like, yeah, we're missing the point here. Even though you literally saw this idiot kick your dog, the fact of the matter is she still kicked him. And it's like, dude, don't kick my dog. I don't care if it's an accident or what. But the fact that he's trying to question your reality is crazy in my opinion. Like, dude, what are you talking about right now? The original poster saw with her own two eyes your girlfriend kick their dog. Like, there's no excusing that. And there's definitely no way you're gonna make me like question my own reality. Like, what's wrong with these people? So yeah, this is some crazy behavior. I seriously don't blame you for banning them from your house, because I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by accidentally paying for my old boss's company for literally an entire year. Here's what happened. Okay, for the past 2 weeks, I've been stressed out of my mind. I kept seeing this massive charge on my account for office supply logistics and cloud management. I'm 19 years old, I work at a boba shop, and I don't even own a printer. I was 100% sure some hacker had my information and was using my card to run a fake business. I was literally about to pay for one of those expensive identity protection services because I was too scared. I felt like my life was ruined before it even started. Well, my cousin scanned my card history and statements through an application to see how much the hacker had spent, just so we could report it to the police. But guess what? The hacker was my old internship from senior year. It turns out that when I was helping my old boss set up their supply software, the company card didn't work, and he asked me to do a one-time payment of $50 just so they could get the account verified. He promised to Venmo me back, which he did, so I thought it was completely fine. But what I didn't know was that the one-time button was actually a hidden yearly auto pay subscription, and I doubt if he knew that as well. That day, I paid for a couple other stuff as well, and all of them were just subscriptions. I then called my old boss up, and he felt like such an idiot that he sent me $600 back immediately, plus extra for the heart attack he indirectly gave me. I was losing sleep thinking that I was the victim of a massive crime when in reality it was nothing. So please check your statements if you see weird names on it. You might not be hacked, but instead you might be spending for somebody else. Oh man, I would be very pissed off about this. This would be super frustrating. I'm one of those people that definitely checks their statements constantly because I want to avoid stuff like this. I don't want someone spending my money. And also, why would they ask you to pay for that like $50 account verification? Why not use his own card instead of one of his employees? I don't know. I just think it's a weird way to set things up, and this definitely could have been handled a lot better. My entitled cousin is finally showing her true colors in a way that honestly none of us in the family can ignore any longer. Here's what's happening. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I've been sitting on this saga for a while, but ever since I recently saw the cousin in question, I've got a lot more tea that I thought it was about time to share. So this cousin is incredibly entitled and is the youngest child of one of my uncles on my dad's side. She's about 6 months younger than my sisters, so they did a lot together growing up. We're talking sports, activities, you name it. I remember her as being a nice cousin, but never really a playmate of hers since she had my sister. Plus, I preferred one of her older sisters as my favorite cousin. But it was in high school when I started to notice that she was really changing and the entitlement really started. She seemed reserved and had some problems and didn't really have any friends. And her main problem was that she developed a nasty attitude about everything. She became short with everyone and was just downright mean, displaying several narcissistic traits, saying nasty comments about everyone around her, even her own family. And her spoiled nature started to show too. If the family wanted to go out to eat, it had to be at a place that she liked. She only wanted clothing from high-end stores. She didn't want to go to places that she hated, etc. For example, she didn't come to her brother's birthday dinner because it was a restaurant that she hated. She went to at least 3 different high schools within 2 years, and even tried to come to the high school my sister and I went to, but eventually returned to her original high school. She went off to college and her entitlement just grew from there. Because you see, her parents, thanks to my uncle, are fairly well off, especially after my uncle retired and got a very nice retirement package after the company he worked for went public. And guess what? She definitely took full advantage of that. Anything she wanted, anywhere she wanted to go, her parents paid for it, especially expensive vacations. So she's very entitled and very spoiled. Our family knows that she has some sort of like mental illness, probably like bipolar disorder, but she's never been officially diagnosed. That's also why she's never had a long-term relationship with a guy. The guys discover her entitled, crazy attitude and then leave. She basically drives them away, as her older sister once said. During one of her trips back home, my mom was visiting my aunt, and this cousin in question said some not so nice things to my mom. Now, to be clear, my mom is not a saint. That's a whole other story, trust me. But still, my cousin was out of line, and she and my mom got into a huge fight. They haven't talked to each other since and won't even acknowledge each other. Then, a few years later, my cousin and my sister got into a huge fight where words were thrown at each other. My sister has apologized, but of course my cousin hasn't, and they literally just don't talk to each other anymore. My dad and I are innocent, but my cousin refuses to acknowledge us out of association with my mom and sister. Her older siblings all think that her grudge against my family is weird and stupid. We cousins are still close to this day, but she's the odd one out. Now, I will say, she did come up to me at another cousin's wedding to congratulate me on my first baby, as I was in my 3rd trimester at the time, but then quickly walked away. And she didn't even acknowledge my dad, her dad's own brother. So yeah, it was really awkward. And it was even more awkward that she brought her boyfriend at the time to the wedding, only for them to separate a couple of months later. Well, recently, my sister gave me some more juicy drama on this entitled cousin. My sister confessed that the cousin was nasty even when they were kids before high school. Not as bad as she is now, but it was starting to show when the cousin was a kid. Snide comments, always wanting to do things her way, etc. My sister only tolerated her because, again, our dad and her dad are brothers. But by the time high school happened, my sister started to distance herself from the cousin, although she did have to let this cousin shadow her for a day when the cousin wanted to come to our high school, but then thankfully didn't, much to my sister's relief. But the biggest amount of drama was their fight that they had, where they won't speak to each other anymore. For you see, my uncle owns a condo in a very famous South Carolina town, and my sister wanted to use it for a week as a graduation present. And on this trip, she would bring along her boyfriend, who's now her husband. My aunt gave her permission to use it, so my sister assumed that she and my brother-in-law would have the place to themselves for the week. But then a few weeks later, she took my sister out to lunch, which my aunt never does. At the end of the lunch, my aunt awkwardly admits that my cousin will be at the condo the same week as my sister and my brother-in-law. Apparently, my uncle has a rule that anyone can use the condo at any time, even if there's overlap. And my God, my sister was crushed by this. Now, I don't know if my sister or my cousin had asked for that week first, so either my aunt forgot about it and realized it later, or my cousin knew my sister was going that week and still planned for it anyways. She then called my cousin up and asked if she could go another week, which would have been really easy for my cousin as she worked a remote job at the time. But my cousin literally said no. My cousin then said, "What, you just want to be alone with your boyfriend all week so you guys can do the dirty?" And holy crap, my sister was horrified by that. But then, not in her best judgment by the way, she retorted by telling my cousin that she's never been in a serious relationship, so she wouldn't know what it's like to have a devoted boyfriend. There was more fighting, and eventually they stopped talking to each other. Now keep in mind the trip still happened, meaning that my sister, my brother-in-law, and my cousin were all at the condo at the same time. So yeah, it was super awkward. And like I said, my sister apologized, but my cousin absolutely didn't. And now they don't even talk to each other. Only a quick hello from my sister and a grunt from my cousin. So now my cousin's in her mid-30s, she's got no boyfriend and just has a dog, and lives out west somewhere with a small friend group, and goes on expensive trips that her parents pay for. All while her older siblings are all married with children and living happily, which she is slightly jealous of. And she refuses to interact with my family. If she ever gets married, which will be a shocker if she ever does, my dad thinks my uncle will force her to invite us just to save face. But we will all probably RSVP no, as we have accepted that she just doesn't like us. Plus, she's like a terrible human being. Now, I gotta say, I feel sorry for her. Like, I really do. And I still love her as my cousin, but she needs to acknowledge her faults if she ever wants to repair the relationships that she has broken in half. But if I'm being completely honest, I don't really see that ever happening. Okay, I know people like this in my own family, and holy crap, they are obnoxious to deal with. They always consider themselves to be right and never at fault, and yet they're the one that's literally ostracizing themselves from the entire family. And it all comes back to like them being rude and nasty and just a really miserable person to be around. So yeah, people like this suck, and I hate having to be like related to people like that because it simply makes every interaction with family so much harder. Am I the jerk for leaving the plane before the lady in front of me did? Because after I got in front of her somehow, she started getting really rude towards me, and I'm now not really sure if I'm the jerk here. Here's how it happened. Okay, so I came home last night on a flight. There was a woman in row 1 and I was in row 4, and I just come off a really lovely cruise, but for some reason, both of my legs became horribly hard, swollen, and painful. I'm disabled, and I had already requested a wheelchair on the way to my gate and from it when we landed, but I was in way more pain than normal. The plane landed, and the lady in row 1 got up and headed past me towards the back of the plane. So all I saw was her making her way backwards. I then got up after that, and I got in the aisle right after that. I mean, the airplane seat was making my pain worse. And even though I requested a wheelchair, it doesn't always mean that you'll get one before they run out. So I had to book it. Well, it turns out for some reason, the other lady's luggage was halfway down the plane, which I didn't know when I got in the aisle. She was extremely offended, got back in line only 2 people behind me, and started loudly complaining how incredibly rude some people are, with a lady to her left who agreed and just started talking crap about me the entire time. I finally had it, and I turned around and said, "I'm trying to get off the plane because I'm in severe pain, and I really need a wheelchair." But that didn't stop the passive-aggressive crap they were giving me. Those two found each other at baggage claim and kept at it, probably because they knew I was within earshot. So was I really that much of a jerk, or did I just manage to piss off a really rude Karen? Because right now I'm not sure what to make of this. Okay, in my opinion, I think there is absolutely no rule or some law about like who gets off the plane first. Like for me, if I'm in the back of the plane and I gotta get off that flight immediately, I'm not gonna sit there and be polite. I'm gonna get in line and stand up and rush to the front so I can get off the plane, dude. Like I'm sure some of you have had like connecting flights that are like, I don't know, 10 minutes later and it takes 20 minutes to get off the plane. Like, dude, I'm not missing my flight. You can either get out of my way or like, I don't know, complain about it. But guess what? I'm still gonna get off the plane. Plus, it's not like she was waiting that long, dude. She's just being rude. She clearly had nothing to say about the 2 people in front of her. She only picked on you because you were closest to the front. Like, that's really stupid. There's no reason for that. So yeah, I don't think you're the jerk. I think that lady is just a complete moron. And if I was in your shoes, I definitely would not let that get to me. Am I the jerk for refusing a leadership promotion at my work? All because it's way more work for a lot less money overall. Because right now, my coworkers are kind of saying that I lack ambition and that I'm making a mistake. But at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do because I don't want to make less money. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I worked at a mid-sized company and I've been here for about 3 years. And I'm currently a regular employee on a performance-based incentive structure. Basically, I have a base salary plus commissions and bonuses tied to output. If I hit my targets, I make pretty good money. And some months, I even out-earn a few of the team leads. Last week, my manager called me into a meeting and offered me a leadership promotion. On paper, it sounds great. New title, more responsibility. I'd be managing about 6 to 8 people, handling reports, approving leave requests, dealing with client escalations, and attending extra meetings. But the catch is that the pay structure structure changes. As a team lead, I'd get a slightly higher base salary, but I would no longer qualify for the same performance incentives I currently get. Leaders get like a small quarterly bonus, but it's capped and significantly lower than what I can earn now if I perform well. I actually did the math, and if I continue as a regular employee and keep hitting my usual targets, I will likely make more money than what I would as a leader. Plus, I would have less stress and no direct reports. When I told my manager I wasn't comfortable accepting the promotion, he looked surprised and said that I was not thinking long term. He said that leadership roles open doors for future advancement and that I should be grateful I was even considered. And now some of my coworkers are saying I'm crazy for turning it down and that people would absolutely do anything for that opportunity. One even implied that I lack ambition. But from my perspective, it feels like more workload, more accountability, more stress, and less earning potential right now. I'm not against growth, but I don't want a shiny title if it means burnout and a pay cut in disguise. So am I the jerk for refusing the promotion because financially and mentally it just doesn't make any sense for me? What should I do? Dude, I would never take this job offer. What in the world's going on right now? If you're going to be expected to do all this extra crap, why would they not keep you on the same incentive program? Like, you're already doing so much work and you're doing such a good job. Why not keep giving you those benefits and like giving you what you want? Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's so stupid. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely stay as a regular employee. I wouldn't become a manager at all. That sounds like a crappy thing to do. And this is not you lacking ambition. This is you looking at your bank account and being like, yeah, I need to make rent, guys. Sorry, I'm not going to get this promotion. There's literally no reason for you to accept it, and in my opinion, I think you made the right choice. An entitled lady nearly causes multiple accidents over a 20-second wait time, all because I was letting a handicapped person out of a marked vehicle with a ramp. Because my God, I've never seen someone go this crazy in my life, and honestly, I'm still trying to get over it. Here's what happened. Okay, so my job mostly consists of driving elderly people to various appointments, with one of them being an adult day program for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. Today, I was dropping off a client at this program. It should be noted that the entryway for this place is terrible for dropping people off. There's only space for one vehicle at a time by the door with an absurdly tiny area to stop and drop people off otherwise. As usual, someone was in the normal drop-off spot, so as usual, I turned on my hazards and used the smaller one at the curb. Using the spot temporarily blocks the normal spot's exit, and I've been bringing this client here for months and everyone else is always very kind and polite and understands that it's a bad spot to have to drop off elderly, handicapped people. The wait is also never more than 30 seconds depending on the mobility of the client. However, even before my ramp can fully deploy, the person using the normal drop-off area accelerated up to me, slamming on their brakes, and then gave me one of the most exaggerated "what are you doing" gestures I've ever seen. I then gestured to my client, who by now was walking by their vehicle. My ramp was almost fully back inside by now. I mean, the process takes like 30 seconds tops, and this lady then moves to jump the curb to get around me, decides against it, and then reverses. And this is all happening very fast, and I'm panicking at this moment, thinking this lady is about to ram me. My door is closing, and I'm starting to move while she was backing off the curb. I then drive away into the parking lot doing the lot speed limit, and she accelerates out and passes me, speeding into the oncoming lane over a speed bump. I can see her rocking back and forth comically as she hits the bump, going way too fast. Then she half runs a stop sign and has to stop because she saw someone coming, turns left behind a car, then tries another insane pass on them, but then gives up on that and returns to her lane. The whole thing was incredible. As a driver, I'm used to seeing stupid moves and road rage, but this was genuinely the most insane instance I've ever seen. I cannot possibly fathom why a 20-second wait could have set this woman off in this way. Dude, I have always thought that some people just really should not be driving around if they have anger problems or if they're impatient like this, because holy crap, what are we talking about? Like, there's no way this idiot driver can't see that the original poster is absolutely dropping someone off. Like, there's a ramp coming down, they're just parking to the side, they put their hazards on, and yeah, they're blocking the way, but guess what? They're gonna be gone in like 20 seconds, if that. It's not gonna take that long. You just gotta be patient, dude. Because this lady was ready to hop the curb, bro. Like, what is going on right now? So yeah, some people really should not be driving, and this lady's a complete moron for acting like this. Today, I finally stood up to my mother by calling her out and saying she was acting like a child. Because after watching her slam the car door over and over again in a fit of rage, I called it exactly as I saw it, putting her in her place in a way I've never done in my entire life. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things off, I need to say I finally did it. I called my mother a child. She was acting like one, so I decided to not keep my mouth shut for once. Now, for reference, my mom was just being rude and immature like she always is, yelling at me and criticizing me just like usual. usual. I told her that's enough, just wanting her to shut up because we were in the car. She continued, so I said it until she finally stopped. We then got home and she slammed the car door. I told her once again, that is enough. She then opened the other door just to slam it again. My response this time was to say, that's enough. You're acting so immature. You're acting like you're 5 years old. You're 10 times older than that. Act like it. She said, well, it's my car, as if that's some kind of like excuse for her actions. We get in the house and she continues slamming doors. And I snapped even more this time. I was so done. I had never said this to my mom before, but I was tired. I said to her, you're being immature. Quit it. You're my mother, not my child. Act like it. And it's here that I finally hinted at the fact that I felt like the parent. Now, of course, she went to her room slamming the door, but I yelled that it was enough again before going to my room. I've never truly stood up to her like that, not to this extent at all, but it felt good to finally just call her out, to say the truth and call her immature. And just knowing that she has to think about that makes me feel so much better. It doesn't fix it, of course, but at least now it's in her mind that her own son's calling her a child, and hopefully that causes some kind of change. Okay, I love this because sometimes you really do just need to call people out for like acting like an idiot. And it sounds like your mom was definitely acting like a child. Like, dude, she was slamming the door over and over again. There's literally no reason for that. Like, I don't know about you, but that's really annoying. And when you're in the car, like you can feel the air pressure change when the car slams. So like it hurts your ears and it's like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. So you calling her out and being like, dude, you're acting like a child. Like that is absolutely warranted because holy crap, she's in her 50s and she's acting like that. Like, bro, get a life. What are we doing right now? So good for you for standing up for yourself and for like calling your mom out, because I'm sure this was not an easy step to take. My entitled toxic coworker demands that I allow her to move into my apartment after she gets kicked out of her own apartment for having a fallout with her roommates. But after I tell her no and that I don't want to do that, she then goes back to my coworkers and claims that I let her be homeless, spreading a horrible rumor about me and literally tried to tarnish my entire reputation, leaving me in a situation where right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I live alone in a small 2-bedroom house where one room is mine and the other one is basically my everything room. It's my office, my closet, my storage. Sometimes I just lay on the floor in there and stare at the ceiling when life sucks. Stuff like that. But most importantly, it is not a guest room. I've lived with horrible roommates before, so I worked really hard to be able to afford my own place, and I love having my own space. It's literally my safe little bubble. Anyways, one of my coworkers got into a huge fight with her roommates, and they kicked her out. She was venting at work, and I felt bad, and I was like, well, that really sucks. Oh my God. And even sent her a few places to look at. And I'm sure you can understand that I was just trying to be helpful without inviting chaos into my life. Later that night, she sent me a text message saying, hey, I was thinking maybe if I could crash with you for a few weeks. Since you live alone and you have the space, would that be okay? When she sent this, I literally got the sinking feeling in my chest. No, I am not even close to her. We are cool at work, but we've never even hung out outside of lunch breaks, or even just us complaining about our boss. She doesn't know anything about me, and I don't know her like that. Why would she live in my house? So I replied super politely. I said to her, I totally get that you're going through it, but I really value my space and I'm just not in a place where I can have someone else stay with me. And trust me, I was like really nice. I didn't ghost her, I didn't ignore her, I just said no. The next day, she starts acting really weird. Then another coworker tells me that she said I let her be homeless when I have an entire room to myself. And it's like, my God, what is going on right now? First of all, she's staying at her boyfriend's place. Secondly, I pay to live alone. That's the whole point. I don't want to feel tense or uncomfortable in my own space. I don't want to tiptoe around a person I barely know. And I definitely don't want to deal with just a few weeks, turning into 2 months of her saying, well, I'm looking for a new place, but nothing's coming through yet. Now, as a result of this, people at work are acting like I'm the bad guy. And it's like, well, sorry for not letting a coworker move into my apartment, all because she had a bad fight. I honestly don't know what to do because I do feel bad, but also I don't, because this entire situation is not my problem. So seriously, am I the jerk for not letting this happen and not letting this lady move into my home? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first off, you are not the jerk for not wanting this in your life, because seriously, who would want this? If this was a close friend or a family member and they had some weird falling out and they had to move out all of a sudden, then yeah, absolutely, I would be more than willing to let anybody in and be like, hey, you can crash here and we can figure it out. Because you know what? I would have some kind of like rapport with them and be like, yes, I trust them and I know they're not going to take advantage of me. But this is one of those coworkers that you just don't know that well, and you literally only see them at work. Like the second you leave and you clock out, they cease to exist. You just don't interact with them. So for this lady to be like, oh, please let me move in, and then basically in the same sentence spread rumors that you're trying to let her become homeless, like that is crazy toxic and just completely out of left field. But thankfully, there's a little bit of details here that I haven't like completely shared yet, because the original poster actually gave us an update to this situation, and it is crazy. Apparently, this coworker is now in jail. The original poster went on to say that they don't know what happened, and that they feel horrible to say this, but they laughed. And you know what? If I was in your shoes, I would be laughing as well. Seriously, this lady tried to ruin your reputation, all because you didn't want to give up a space in your house that literally is yours. And you know what? It's always selfish people like this coworker who try to step in and be like, well, you don't need all that extra space. I could easily occupy it instead. And it's like, dude, yeah, you probably could occupy that space, but guess what? I don't want you living there. Please leave me alone. It is so idiotic. It honestly just isn't fair for you or anybody else, because you're under no obligation to take care of someone, especially if they're going to end up in jail. Like, who knows what she could have done to your property while you weren't there? She could have robbed you blind. She could have destroyed stuff. She could have stayed put and refused to leave at all. Like, that would have been a nightmare, and honestly, I don't blame you for saying no. So hopefully your reputation gets repaired as a result of all of this, and people begin to realize that you are not the problem here, because this lady is now in jail, as there's obviously another side to the story that clearly none of us know about. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Two entitled male Karens back to back walk into CVS and humiliate themselves in the worst way possible, leaving me and the manager laughing our butts off at how stupid these two guys truly were. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I don't work for CVS, but I've been sitting at an informational booth every week this month, and today I got to witness two entitled male Karens complain to staff literally within 5 minutes of each other. The first guy came in here demanding to speak to a manager because there was a delivery driver parked out front making a pharmacy delivery. There is no loading dock anywhere, so the front door is the loading zone. He was demanding the manager to call the police because of about 3 parking violations. When the manager said he would be long gone before the police ever got here, he got upset and demanded her name and likely wants to call corporate to complain further. He even went out of his way to track down the driver and berate him, to which the driver responded, "Would you be saying this to the Brink truck driver that also does the same thing?" Well, that shut him up, and he grumbled something as he walked away. Then, literally less than 5 minutes after that, another male Karen comes in wanting to make a return. He did not have a receipt, so the worker tells him due to their policy, they can't make the return. Well, he then starts to raise his voice, and he is complaining about how CVS is literally stealing $3 from me. They continue to go back and forth, and eventually the male Karen gets his way from the same poor manager, who was also just berated by the parking police, and the situation is seemingly over. He then returns not a minute later to complain further that he only got charged back $2.49 when originally it was $1 more, a chargeback they had never had to give him due to him not having a receipt. He continues to make a scene for a few more minutes and ends it by saying, "That's why CVS is a ghost town. You have the worst customer service." And then he just storms out of the building. Now, I'm currently laughing about it with the manager, wondering how these entitled idiot male Karens can be so miserable with their own lives that they have to ruin everybody else's day. It makes me grateful that I no longer work retail, and makes me respect even more anyone who has to deal with people like this on the regular. So truly, good luck to all the retail workers who deal with these types of entitled individuals. Oh man, I love this story for so many reasons, but mostly it's just the fact that these guys literally came in like 5 minutes after each other. First of all, I think anyone who's worked customer service has run into this garbage before, where it makes you wonder if there's some kind of like full moon going on and you're like, wait a second, what's happening? Because seriously, this is so annoying. The first guy's complaining about a delivery driver, and the next guy's complaining about $1. Like, this guy already got his way, he got his stupid refund, and now he's trying to be like, you owe me $1, please. So yeah, I completely agree with the original poster, because people like this truly have nothing better to do with their lives than to walk into CVS like an idiot and make a complete fool out of themselves. An entitled rude business owner refused to properly get rid of the hazardous waste he left behind in his facility, forcing me to get revenge on this guy by quite literally forcing him to get his stuff or else he would have all of it towed. Here's what happened. So about 30 years ago, I worked as a property manager at a commercial industrial building. There was a gentleman who operated a machine shop from one of the warehouses in the back, and he occupied the space for decades before I got involved. And as far as I knew, he was respectful, friendly, and always paid the rent on time. But the real trouble began when he decided to retire and close the business. It took several days to move, but when it seemed to be vacant, I entered the space to assess the condition of the unit. And initially, what what was left was pretty typical. A desk filled with miscellaneous office supplies, a couple of broken chairs, and maybe some trash here and there. But the real problem was in the corner, where there was a large steel drum of used compressed oil. The barrel could hold about 55 gallons, but it was half full. Nevertheless, this type of material has to be disposed of in a proper manner, and there are services that collect used oil, but at a significant cost. Now, at this time, he still had a company van parked outside with a flat tire. So I thought, well, surely he'll be back to get it soon along with a barrel of oil, right? Well, after a week passing, I decided to give him a call. He gave some excuses, but said he would take care of it soon, but of course, nothing happened. A couple more weeks go by and a couple more phone calls until finally he snapped. He told me to get lost and then hung up. So it was then after he told me to get lost and he swore at me that I decided to get really petty. I had noticed that his van had been left unlocked and was virtually empty, so I got a colleague to help out, and together we managed to get the barrel into the van. We then threw the desk, the broken chairs, and the trash in there as well. I then called a friend of mine who is a cop to give the gentleman a courtesy call, informing him that he had 48 hours to move his van or it would be towed. Well, the very next day he was there with a tow truck that he hired to collect the van. Now, I didn't speak to him, but some other tenants who knew him told me that he was very upset. They suggested my solution was extreme and unwarranted, but I maintained that I was very patient with him until he crossed the line and disrespected me. Oh wow, that really is unfortunate because that guy 100% used you. He didn't get that crap because not only was he not going to get it, but also he had every intention of keeping there as long as possible. And that is seriously not fair for you, especially the barrel of oil. Like, are you kidding me right now? That is so weird. So good for you for getting this guy to get his crap off of your property, because the way he was acting was incredibly inappropriate. Am I the jerk for refusing to give my girlfriend $8? As that $8 was literally all I had left. Because after I said no, this caused a huge argument between us. And now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this morning I was driving my girlfriend back to her apartment all before I headed over to work. Lately, both of us have been going through a rough patch financially, but it's been hitting me especially hard this month. I even cut up all my credit cards to avoid falling back on them when money runs out. Just the other day, we were joking about how we're both in the negatives in our checking accounts. Last night, her dad kindly gave her $70 and we went grocery shopping together. While she was paying, I pulled out my wallet to see if I could pitch in, and I had $8 in cash. But before I could hand it over, she had already swiped her card. I mentioned that I was going to help, and she just said to me, "We'll worry about that later." Well, fast forward to this morning, and she brought it up again and asked for the $8. Well, that's when it finally hit me. Since I cut up my cards, that $8 is literally all I have until payday at the end of the month. That's my grocery money, my gas money, literally everything. So I told her a bit sheepishly that that's all I've got, thinking that that would be enough to pause the conversation. But she pushed back saying, "Well, you were going to give it to me last night. I don't understand." And when I heard that kind of shocked me. I've helped her a lot recently. $450 towards rent, $100 towards gas, and $190 to help her file her taxes. So hearing her push so hard for the $8 felt completely off. It rubbed me the wrong way, and you know what? I snapped. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it turned into this big argument. I tried to suggest tabling the conversation until after work, since we only had 5 minutes left in the drive, and I knew we were just getting more heated, but she insisted that we keep talking. Well, sure enough, things escalated. I dropped her off, and in frustration, I said something along the lines of, "Go ahead, go into your apartment and take your nap. I'll go to work and make the money," all right before she slammed the door. And I know I shouldn't have said that, but I was just being a jerk in that moment. She later texted me saying I'm taking my stress out on her, interrupting her when she's trying to talk, and that I haven't apologized. And honestly, I do feel like I owe her an apology for the rude things I said and how I said them, but at the same time, I don't think my core feelings are wrong. It really seemed like she felt entitled to that $8, and it really felt like she wasn't seeing that. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this situation is really weird in my opinion, because man, you've got to figure something out in your life if $8 is all you have left for the entire month. Like, for starters, if you're paying for all that stuff in her life and not doing anything to protect yourself, then seriously, you need to figure some things out. And the original poster goes on to explain some of their financial situation, and from the sounds of it, it just seems like there's a lot of money going out of their account. So in my opinion, I don't blame you for getting upset about the $8, but I think your girlfriend being mad at you is like the least of your worries. It really seems like you're in a dire financial situation, and in my opinion, I think you need to figure that out before anything else. My ex was a terrible person, as he literally treated me like garbage every day of our relationship, so I decided to get some petty revenge by cashing in on a vacation that he had previously paid for. Here's what happened. My ex and I booked a holiday during COVID that ended up being canceled due to border closures and whatnot. We applied for a refund but never saw a cent of it due to long processing time. times. When we split, there was some money owing between us, so I guesstimated how much we would get back for the flights, and then I called the day even. I gave him the white goods we bought together for free, as I just wanted a clean break. The maths I did was a rough estimate, but he came out with more in the end. Flash forward many years later, and I get a text from the company saying the refund would be processed. I was confused at first and realized it was for the flight that we booked during COVID. The refund would be a gift card, but it was sent to my ex's email as he finalized the booking. Well, I called the company explaining that my partner and I no longer use that email and to send the gift card to another email. After a few clarifying details, they did so. The gift card was also for the full amount, with no taxes and fees taken off as we were originally informed. Another email was sent saying I could alternatively ask for a refund back to my account. However, given it was under my ex's name, I knew that wasn't possible. Now, I was worried that they just resent the gift card and not generated a new code, therefore making the gift card in his email still active. Now, I'm pretty sure my ex still uses that email and would have seen the gift card, but knowing how much he loves to sit on his butt to do anything, I decided to start looking at a holiday. After 30 minutes, I booked a holiday somewhere sunny with flights and accommodations covered for a long weekend away. And in this situation, patience is the best weapon and silence is the best revenge. Now, for context, my ex is a massive piece of garbage. He counted every cent between us. Hence, I didn't want to argue with what money was to be divided at the end, and I gave him out white goods for free. He was derogatory in how he spoke to me and overall just a terrible person, meaning that this holiday really is compensation for the way that he treated me. Oh man, I love stories like this because it sounds like the ex absolutely deserved this. They mistreated you your entire relationship, and now after a few years, you finally get a chance to get back at him. So good for you for getting this vacation, because I guarantee you if you waited in some kind of way, he would have seen that gift card and probably pounced on that right away. But snagging it early really is the best revenge you could have possibly gotten. My boyfriend's ex-wife doesn't want me around his kids, and despite the fact that they've already been introduced to me, she's now demanding that I don't be anywhere near them until further notice. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend of over a year is trying to respect his ex-wife's wishes and not allowing me around his kids. For context, they were married for 2 years and have been divorced for a year and a half. When we first started dating, he told me that they had a rule that it has to be a year of dating before introducing someone to the kids. When we first started dating, it got serious pretty fast. He actually moved into my apartment building in an apartment below me, and he didn't tell her that I lived in the same apartment building, but a few months ago, she found out. He has his boys 2 weekends a month at his place overnight, and I have run into them a few times, and he has told them that I'm his girlfriend. They were very curious about me and would ask about me whenever they were over at his place. Every time he would ask his ex-wife if me and the kids could officially meet, she would say no. So I proposed the idea of me and her having a meetup so she feels more comfortable, but she said no to that too. So a few weeks ago, I pressed a little bit about it, and he finally bit the bullet and introduced them to me without telling her. And when we did that, they were very happy and we hit it off. His ex found out about it from the kids and was extremely angry. She said until further notice, I couldn't be around the kids even though I've already met them and live in the same apartment building. There is no reason she doesn't want me specifically around the kids, as I am a stable adult, I don't do any substances, and I don't drink. He told me she's uncomfortable with another woman coming into their lives in general, especially someone introduced as the girlfriend. So I'm honestly not sure how to proceed. I don't have an ex-husband or kids, so this is all new to me. I'm glad he waited a year to introduce us, because I feel that is a sufficient amount of time. Should I take a step back from asking him to see the kids again? He wants to respect her wishes, but I think it has to do with her comfort level and not the kids' comfort level, as they've asked to see me and hang out with me multiple times. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, I think it really was wrong to try and push for this, because seriously, that's not okay. This, in my opinion, really oversteps some serious boundaries that you just didn't really care about. And yeah, I totally agree. The circumstances suck because guess what? He lives in the same apartment building. So naturally, it would be hard to avoid being around them, but also because you pushed it, you've now made an enemy of this ex-wife. And I just don't think that's the best first impression going into this. So yeah, I hope this all works out, but also I think you need to realize that this was a big miscalculation on your part, because now it's going to take even longer for this ex-wife to even begin to warm up to you. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for wearing a suit instead of a dress at a relative's wedding? Because now they're still pissed off at me and said that I ruined their wedding. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female and I went to a relative's wedding, which was in and of itself already old-fashioned. The men and women were wearing simple suits and dresses. The bride wears an overly large white dress, and the husband wears a fancy black suit. Due to the fact that I am more of modern culture, I chose a suit over a dress. Nothing much, just a black suit with a tie. try. My husband and mother both say that since I don't have an important role in the wedding, I should be able to wear what I want as long as it fits the theme and the occasion. Now, of course, I sent the bride the picture of the suit, and she replied with a thumbs up emoji, which I took as confirmation. So, skip to the day of the wedding. Me, my mother, my husband show up, and everything goes smoothly. The bride and groom are laughing, and the guests are enjoying themselves. Well, that is until the bride pulls me away from the other guests, and she literally starts yelling at me. She says to me, "Stop ruining my day and being the center of attention." Now, for the record, I am not someone who enjoys attention. I'm also not someone who takes kindly to yelling and accusations before reasoning. Usually, I would wait until they're done and then argue back, but since this was her special day, I just decided not to. I then asked her in a calm manner if she had a dress for me to wear then. She then started telling me to buy something right then and there, but I said no because it was very inconvenient for me to leave and try to change into something else. We continue to argue and I start to lose my cool. I know when I get mad, I can get out of my right mind and say something I shouldn't, so I tell her I think I better leave before I snap and ruin the day. I ended up leaving the wedding, and to this day, we still don't get along, but I don't regret a single thing. I think I didn't do anything wrong, as she told me that it was okay to wear that, but denied it last minute. I know it might be a jerk move, but when her husband cheated on her, I did not feel bad at all. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I'm still incredibly frustrated. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like seriously, the bride approved it. They gave a thumbs up emoji and said, "Oh yeah, this is totally fine." If they didn't like it, they would have been like, "Oh, are you wearing that to my wedding?" And maybe told you in like a roundabout way that they don't want you wearing that. But if they actually had a problem with that, then they probably should have said something at the moment you sent it to them. And I'm sure you explained yourself in the text message that you sent them. I'm positive that you sent the suit picture and said, "Hey, can I wear this?" And then assumed that yeah, because they gave you a thumbs up, that means they're okay with it. Which by the way, anyone would think that. That bride's an idiot for being like, "Oh yeah, the attention's getting taken away from me. I hate you so much. How dare you do this to me?" It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Seriously, this is crazy. If you didn't want me to wear it, then guess what? Maybe tell me that before I buy the suit instead of doing it on the day of your wedding. Not to mention her delusional request to be like, "Oh, go buy something else right now and put that on." It's like, do you hear yourself? Because that's not gonna happen. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. This lady's a complete idiot for letting this happen and then trying to act like this is some kind of big travesty, because this is not fair for you in the slightest. A group of idiots decided to ding-dong ditch my house one too many times, as they literally banged on my door as hard as they can just to prank me and my family. But after they kicked my door open, they were met with the biggest dog I'm sure they've ever seen in their lives, as they literally ran as fast as they could while my dog chased them down the street. And I'm honestly still laughing about this to this day, because those idiots absolutely deserved it. Here's what happened. Okay, so I wasn't really sure whether to post this or not, but I've been wanting to tell people about it, so here we go. My partner and I live in the smallest cul-de-sac probably in the world. You can walk the entire community in probably 5 minutes, and you would think that this would foster a close neighborhood, but everybody just mostly keeps to themselves. The only reason I mention this is to say that we have no idea who would do this. Now for reference, we rent, and since we've been in this neighborhood for about 4 years now without any incident, we never got around to getting a Ring camera or anything like that, which will be changing after this incident. We just have an old-fashioned doorbell and a kind of crappy latch on the front door. Well, a few weeks ago, we got ding-dong ditched. It's never happened before, and it was kind of funny, so we just went along with our day and nothing else happened for a few more weeks. And you know what? This probably encouraged them to do it again. But this time, they decided to pound the front door instead of ringing the doorbell. Now, I have a habit of leaving the front door unlocked when I'm waiting on a delivery, and this was one of those days. It happened really fast, but this was what I put together. The first knock did nothing but alert our dog, a 55-pound half-breed, that someone was at the door. So naturally, she ran downstairs to bark at the door. The second knock must have pushed the door off the latch, but not completely all the way. And remember, I said it's a crappy latch. Well, the third knock was their final mistake. We could only hear it from upstairs. The bang of the door smacking against the wall, the scrambling footsteps, and the dog chasing them out the door. We ran downstairs, and thankfully, our dog isn't the kind to run away. She ran the intruders off the property, then stood guard at the open front door, as it was still swinging from its hard impact against the wall. In our lawn was an abandoned but full bag of puffy Cheetos, and on the sidewalk in front of our house was an Arizona tea that was either dropped or thrown, but was essentially left abandoned to spill its mostly full contents into the gutter. So it was obvious that all of this was abandoned in The Great Escape, and it was so freaking funny. It was sitcom level stuff. So I decided to leave it there in case they decided to come back for them. Well, they were both gone by the next morning. The best part is I cannot tell if it was a bunch of stupid kids or a bunch of stupid young adults, but I seriously don't think they'll be coming back anytime soon, especially if they don't want to deal with my dog in the process. Oh man, that is amazing. I love this story so much because this went way beyond what would be like a normal prank or some kind of like harmless fun, and instead ventured ventured into something that was quite malicious if you ask me. Like seriously, think about it. These idiots were banging on your front door. And when I think of like banging on the door, I think of them like pounding or even kicking the door to like get your attention. And I don't know about you, but unless my house is on fire or like the police are there, you better not be knocking on my door like that, especially when there is literally a doorbell right there. So the fact that your 55-pound dog literally got out and started chasing them down the sidewalk, like that is hilarious and so deserved. Because based on what they left behind, I guarantee you it was just a bunch of stupid kids running around the neighborhood, doing stuff they definitely shouldn't be doing, thus making the result of this entirely earned. Like you seriously can't start knocking on someone's door, literally kick the door open, and not expect some big dog or some consequence waiting on the other side. Like you know for a fact they heard that dog barking, because at that point, if they were smart enough, they would have been like, hey, that dog sounds really big, let's get out of here. So good for you for putting these people in their place, whoever they were, because the way they treated your property and your door was incredibly disrespectful. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband's brother has been living with us for over a year and has in that year refused to take care of himself or do anything to change his life, leaving me in a situation where I had to speak up and tell my husband that his brother absolutely has to go. Here's what happened. So my husband and myself moved into our first home together last February. Shortly after my daughter's first birthday in April of last year, my husband's older brother moved into our home with us. I am not extremely close with my husband's family, but I've gotten along with them fairly okay whenever we're around each other. Last year, I got a sob story about how his older brother fell on hard times, and he just really wanted to get his life back on track so that he could get joint custody of his son. His son lives in DFW with his child's mother, and seeing as the brother was technically homeless, I suggested that instead of moving to Alabama with his mother, he could stay with us in Houston because it is closer to his son. And you know what? I ultimately regretted this act of kindness, but the parent in me wanted him to be closer to his son. In this year of living with us, I can count on one hand how many times he has gone to see his son, who lives like 3 hours away from us. Well, fast forward to now a year later, and he is somehow worse off than he was when he first came. He had a car which is now broken down in our garage. He had a job while living with us, but it was only for a few months, all before he was let go and never sought employment again. He claims that he has been using his time to study for the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery just so he can get into the military. And this is not totally a lie because I've seen him studying often. However, he's also been spending just as much time on his game system. Now, I myself am in the military, and I used to work with recruiters to tutor people for this very program. In my 9 years of service, I've never known anyone who needed to study for this program for over a year. He has taken the test multiple times, but he isn't getting scores high enough for the job that he wants. My husband was in the military as well, so it rubs me the wrong way that he hasn't been upfront with his own brother and suggesting another career path, because I truly don't believe he is suitable for the military at all. He has not paid a single bill while living with us. There was one time where he sent my husband maybe $200, but considering all of the money my husband has given him while staying with us, I'd consider that a loan repayment. The most he has done is maybe buy a loaf of bread or fruit or condiments here and there, and after harping down on my husband and his brother for months about cleaning, he may clean the kitchen more often than he used to. My husband and I split everything, so he pays rent and car stuff, and I pay utilities and for the groceries. The rent, the car note, and insurance is always the same each month. However, utilities and groceries fluctuate based on usage each month, which means that I'm the only one taking on the financial burden of having another grown man living in the house who is there all day, every day. The most he has contributed to the house is maybe cleaning the kitchen from time to time, or watching our daughter for maybe 30 to 40 minutes when my husband takes me to work, which is literally 1 to 2 times a week, and most times our daughter will just tag along for the car ride. So it really begs the question, am I overreacting for telling my husband that I'm ready for his brother to leave? The straw that broke the camel's back was coming back from a trip to visit my family. His brother, again unemployed without a single responsibility in the world, had one job and one job only. He was to come and pick us up from the airport. My husband left him his car keys so he would have transportation while we were gone, and so we could save on money by not having to get an Uber home. We live roughly 20 minutes away depending on traffic, so I told him to text his brother once we landed so he could leave the house to come and get us. Well, we get outside and his brother isn't there. We are waiting and waiting, but still he's not there. Eventually, my husband gets a text saying that he had to loop around the airport, which I'm honestly not sure why because I've told him time and time again, if he gets there early, just wait in the cell lot. So we wait more. Then my husband gets a text message saying nothing but the number 4, which we assume means that he's parked in lane 4. But no, that means he's 4 minutes away. And it's like, okay, fine, we can wait wait a little bit longer, but then they get on the phone and my husband tells me that my brother got lost. Not only has he been to the airport multiple times before, but he also has maps and CarPlay, so there is no reason he should be getting lost. I was frustrated, tired from a long day of traveling, and I was even more upset because my daughter was dressed for Seattle weather and not Houston weather. She had on a long sleeve sweatshirt and pants, so I knew she was hot because I was hot. I told him to tell his brother to find his way home and that we'll just get an Uber. Now, I typically bite my tongue when it comes to this family arrangement, especially since I originally co-signed it, but in the moment, I blurted out that I'm ready for his brother to leave and that if he has an issue with it, he can just leave with him. So truly, am I overreacting? And I really need you to be honest. My husband seems upset with me, but I truly feel like he has no reason at all to be upset with me. I'm the one who has been taking care of a grown man-child for a year now, and I'm honestly at my breaking point because I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first off, I don't think you're the jerk, but I think this probably should have come up way sooner than the way you handled it. For you to be like, oh yeah, if you don't like it, you can leave with him. That seems a little bit overboard and definitely uncalled for. But overall, don't get me wrong, you are completely right. This guy's been mooching off of you and your husband for over a year. Think about it, this guy lost his job, he doesn't have a car, he doesn't pay for rent or groceries or the utilities. Like seriously, what's going on right now? That is not okay, and I would be pissed if I was in your shoes. So the fact that he is literally not doing anything to try and take care of himself or anybody else in the house, like that is obnoxious and I would hate that. So for me, if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely ask him to leave. I would straight up tell him that his time is up and that he needs to go. There's no excuse, he has to get his life together, and unfortunately, that's gotta be somewhere else. Because you've literally taken care of him for over a year, and he has not done anything to improve his life in the slightest. And that, unfortunately, is not your problem. My toxic coworker makes my female coworker cry, all because of something that was incredibly petty. So I decided to get some revenge by using my IT powers for evil and making his life a living nightmare, forcing him to apologize to my coworker, or else the problems that he's experiencing with his network would literally never stop. Here's what happened. Okay, so where I used to work, there was a guy who everybody knew was an absolute jerk to the highest degree. Always demanded that his stuff be done first, and if you needed anything from him, he was suddenly unreachable. Now, by trade, I am a telephone engineer. I was in my cube one day working, and this guy came over and just gave my coworker the business with both barrels, berating her up and down for some petty BS to do with his cell phone, literally leaving her in tears. So if you know anything about private phone systems, there is a message waiting indicator light, and in order for the phone system to turn on and off, it simply silently has the phone dial a specific number. For months, I would randomly turn on his message waiting indicator, and then I would wait until he would put it in a help desk ticket. So the indicator light would be lit even though there was no message. And then I would literally blow him off until he would run up the flagpole complaining. Then I would wait until he wasn't around and just walk over to his phone and dial the number needed so that the light would go off. And I must have done this 8 or 10 times before he finally figured it out. Besides that, me and my other buddy would just randomly go in and kick him off the Wi-Fi. I mean, we were literally just messing with him all the time. He came up to me one day and said, "I know you're doing that on purpose. Would you please stop it?" So I replied by saying, "I have a distinct feeling that if you apologize to my coworker, all that crap might just stop overnight. Otherwise, who knows what can happen?" Well, he apologized and the fun finally stopped. So the moral of that story is that you don't want to mess with anyone in IT because we can easily make your work life a living nightmare. Okay, I love what the original poster did because this guy made one of his coworkers cry. Seriously, whatever was going on with this guy's stupid stuff was no reason for him to go over to this coworker and start making her cry. I don't care what's happening. You don't scream at someone until they're in tears and then storm off like you have any right to be doing that. So truly, I think what you did to him was like the bare minimum of what he deserved because that guy was a total jerk. My entitled aunt blames my dogs for her dog's death. She also yells at my mom and has a long history of being such an awful person. And now I'm wondering if I'm truly at fault because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, we live in a rental with a shared yard. My aunt lives in the front house and I live in the back. We're surrounded by forests near a main road and there's no fence yet as we are building one currently. I have 2 dogs and one's a hunter and the other one is her pup. They're trained, they stick to the trees, and they never go near the road. Well, my aunt has 2 little dogs, maybe 2 Pomeranians. When the road was closed, they used to cross the neighbors, who has about 5 small dogs. One day, her pup crossed and got hit by a car while returning. She started crying and blamed my dogs, but both were right beside me the entire time. Now, one of my dogs is in heat, and we usually give her vet-approved birth control every 6 months, but it didn't arrive this time, so we've been keeping her inside except for walks. She did slip out once and I chased after her, and at the same time, my aunt's senior blind dog with no teeth came barking at us in the road, and I was trying to manage both situations. Well, today she came screaming at my mom, kicked a stray and said my dog caused her puppy's death. But I've never brought up the fact that her dog took out 3 of my kittens, bit 2 of them, and gave one of them a heart attack. That same dog used to growl at my pit bull collie mix, who, by the way, was tied up, and he once scratched the dog after being constantly provoked. Her husband even shot a tree where my dog was tied up and said that he would take him out. So I've moved my dog closer to our back door, and I keep him inside at night, but I'm scared now, and I worry that he'll hurt my cats or my dogs when I'm not around. She even brought up a loan my mom gave her when we were sick, which was about $1,000, and blamed us for her being in debt. But she's in debt because she got a loan from her awful husband to buy a car, and not because of us. She abandoned her kids at 9 to move here. Her son tried going to university, but she pulled him out, and now he helps with bills while she still supports that man. Her daughter once told me that she wishes my mom was her mom, someone who has always put her kids first no matter what. I've kept quiet for years, but yelling at my mom and blaming my dogs, honestly, that crossed a line, and it makes me wonder if she's just entitled or if it's something worse. Now, while some might view us as irresponsible pet owners, all of our cats are healthy and spayed. We have 5 and they stay in our yard, often lounging in the trees. Our 2 small pups are only outside when we are, and they're leash-free during walks. As for our pit bull collie mix, he can't be off the leash in public due to breed stereotypes, even though he is a gentle soul. And yes, he goes on late night walks with us, since there are less people out, and we avoid the whole chaos of people telling us that we should have a muzzle or cross the street as soon as they see him. It's not ideal, but we love him, and adopting him saved his life when he was about to be put down at the age of 1. We leave food and water outside for any strays that might need it, as they are common in our area. And the kittens that were taken out came from a pregnant stray that we decided to foster. We've scheduled her, our female dog, to be spayed in June when my sister is on summer break. But now I'm working, and we're installing a fence so that they can roam safely and free, and hopefully away from my entitled family. Oh yeah, this sounds really awful. The fact that your aunt is trying to blame you for all these things that seemingly are not your fault, in my opinion, is just completely weird. But truly, I think it's a really good idea that you're putting a fence in, because it sounds like that will solve a lot of problems going on around your property, especially when it comes to your family. Because with a fence, you can keep her off of your property, and you can keep your dogs on your property, essentially making it so your family can no longer be blamed for stuff that's going wrong in her life. My girlfriend cheated on me after we went through a traumatic event 3 months prior, and now I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, because at this point, I seriously do not know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my girlfriend have been together for about 3 years and 6 months. It hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows for sure, but we've managed to come through this far. I've had to put up with a lot of aggression from her and mental breakdowns. I was always there for her, even if I didn't have the energy at all, and for reference, I work pretty long hours, and my job is mentally and physically demanding. In late December 2024, she unexpectedly gave birth one night. It was a stillborn, and it really traumatized us both. She had been complaining for a few months about pains in her stomach, and she even went to a doctor twice, and they did not pick up that she was pregnant. I wish I could have done more to prevent what happened, but I thought, seeing as she went to a doctor twice, and the doctor told her that she most likely had digestive issues, that every step that could have been taken was taken. I was quite shut off for a while, and I would say that I did not handle the situation in the best way. I was always there for her, comforting her and telling her that it's not her fault or mine, and that it will get easier with time, but I was a little bit closed off to talking in detail about what happened that night. In my mind, I needed some time to process this, and she was not very understanding. She wanted to talk about baby names, and spoke about it as if we had a child with us almost, and I just needed some time to wrap my head around how I actually felt. Fast forward a month and a half, and I purchased my first house. It was a big step for me. I've been dreaming about it for years, and she was just as excited to move. We looked together at homes, and she was more than happy to move to the area we live in now. She was definitely still mourning the loss, but I would say that she was coping much better. In the month of March, I had to go away for a month for work in another city, and I kept in good contact with her and reassured her every step of the way that I am becoming more of myself, and I'm ready to talk in depth about the baby without literally losing my mind. I was a depressed mess for 2 months, and it just started to get better. So I got back home on the 1st of April, and thankfully my father had help with moving the furniture while I was away. And the day that I got back, we moved into my first home. Well, I've got to say, I got a very funny feeling that she cheated on me while I was away. It felt very wrong, but I went on her phone that night, and I discovered that she has cheated on me with a past partner. She even told me that night while she was lying in our bed that she still loves me. She told him on their messages that she's seriously considering breaking up with me, and that she would probably do it towards the end of the year. I mean, they seemed like they were a couple basically, after chatting for 2 weeks on the phone and then hooking up 2 nights before I returned home. After confronting her about it, she straight up denied it at first, but then she saw that there was no point in denying it. She said that she was lonely lonely and hurt because of the baby situation, and that she needed some comfort. She profusely apologized, and I could see that she regretted it, but I am not 100% convinced that she has not planned on breaking up with me. Keep in mind, while I'm working 14 to 18-hour shifts every day in a city that I'm not used to, and securing funds for our new chapter, she's been doing all of this behind my back. And also, I most likely will support us financially. She has an okay job, but has a lot of debt that she is paying off that she made back in college. Ever since the whole cheating ordeal, we have spoken a lot about it, and she is reassuring me that I'm the only guy that she wants, and that she didn't mean any of the stuff that she said to him. She wants to be with me forever. But you know what? I have lost all my trust in her. For almost 4 years, I have broken my back for this woman, feeding her every day, comforting her, helping her out financially every single month, and giving her loads of love and attention. I thought that we had a super solid respect and trust for each other. But you know what? I think I may be wrong. I am extremely hurt over it, and I'm definitely not coping well, but I am trying to remain as calm as I can for her best interest. Fast forward, and she got checked into a mental health clinic today for 11 days because she is not coping with the loss of the baby, and she feels extremely awful about herself for cheating on me. I know she feels bad and regrets it massively, but how would I know for sure that this will not happen again in the future? She was always the insecure one, telling me over and over that I must never cheat on her, and that I should rather just call her up and break up with her rather than hook up with another woman. So she literally broke her own biggest rule. Cheating was a serious taboo for her, and she said that she doesn't see us still dating if I had to ever cheat on her. So here's my question. Do I bite the bullet and give her another chance, or do I move on with my life and break her heart in favor of my own self-respect and future happiness? Because right now I am truly heartbroken and I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, this is such a heavy one, like seriously. First of all, I'm so sorry for the loss of your child. Even though it wasn't expected or planned, that kind of situation has got to be so difficult, and honestly, I'm so sorry that you two went through that. So on that end, I can understand why you shut off and you said, listen, I need time to process this, which is something I think any reasonable person would request, because this really is a heavy topic. But in that same vein of thought, I do not think it's appropriate in the slightest the way she betrayed your trust by literally cheating on you. There's no good excuse for that in my opinion. Seriously, there's absolutely not. I understand that she was lonely and she needed care, but she easily could have gone to you or gone to like therapy of some kind to get that help. The last person she should have gone to was some other ex-boyfriend and hook up with them instead of talking to you. And on that note, I think it's completely irrational to try and blame this on yourself in any way, shape, or form. Just because you were closed off and didn't really talk, and maybe you were like short every now and then, doesn't justify her cheating on you. Like, oh my god, you guys literally just bought a house together, and she is seriously gonna turn around and betray your trust like that? Like, oh my god. So truly, I hope this works out in some kind of way where everybody gets to be the most happy, whether that means staying with her and trying to figure this out, or moving on and finding a better life. My psycho mother smashes my Nintendo Switch, all because of my spoiled, crazy older brother, who literally manipulated the entire situation to make it seem like our argument was my fault. And now I feel so distressed that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm really upset right now because I'm not in the position to buy a new Nintendo Switch, and this crazy lady wasn't even the one who bought the Switch. I can't even go asking her to pay for a repair or a new Switch because she's insane. Like, she's genuinely crazy, and I still just go crawling back to her. First, she smashed up my phone a few years ago, broke the PS4 a year ago, and now my only thing left was the Nintendo Switch that she smashed up. And guess what? Every single time she did it was because of her eldest son, who, keep in mind, is a grown man. He is 22 years old as of now, but every single time he caused an incident, he was above the age of 19. So I guess he's equally as entitled as his narcissistic mother. He's equally as narcissistic and manipulative. I mean, my god, I hate them both so much. The only reason I go crawling back to my evil mother is because I'm financially dependent on her until I finish school. I have my A-levels around the corner, which is something we do in my country towards the end of high school, so I've paused with a job search for now. My brother caused this entire incident as I was playing with my little brother, and his entitled self kept pestering us to play. We were in the middle of doing something, and we wanted to continue all night to gain experience, but we made a compromise to him. We told him to come back in an hour and then we'll play Switch Sports with him. Well, this grown man baby decided to start touching the controller as I had left it because it was an AFK map on Fortnite. And then when I moved it away from his narcissistic self, he started getting really angry, as in he kept moving his hand towards the controller when I moved it, and then I told him to stop touching it, and he just kept swearing in God's name that he wasn't when clearly he was. So yeah, he kept doing that, and I seriously just lost my mind. I was yelling at him and I was telling him to leave the controller. I said that we made a compromise, so please, why can't you just stop? And so I went to my entitled mother to tell her entitled son to stop. And of course, she was sucking up to him, telling me it's not her problem and he can do whatever he wants, and that maybe I should just let him play. And it's like, seriously, what's going on right now? So as I went to her, he started getting really angry, like shouting a lot. He was swearing and saying he wasn't touching it and all this other stuff. And he started getting really crazy towards me. And you know what? That's what set her off, because she can't bear to see her son in distress. And so she went crazy and she started attacking me and my younger brother, where she eventually got the Nintendo Switch cords and smashed it on the floor, yelling at us by saying that we're torturing her and her son. And I honestly can't stand these people, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Oh man, this really is insane. Your mom literally flew off the handle all because you're like, hey, can you tell my brother to stop? Can you literally get this grown man off my back? Like seriously, that's a normal request of a sibling. That is not unusual because this guy was being annoying, and now you're somehow being punished for something that you didn't even do. So truly, I'm so sorry you're dealing with that, and hopefully one day soon you're able to move out and get away from these people, because literally they do not sound like good people in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. A bunch of construction workers leave a wall of bricks on the sidewalk, which quite literally forced me and my dog to walk into the street just to avoid it. So I decided to get some petty revenge by leaving dog droppings right where the bricks were laid, hopefully sending a message that this is absolutely unacceptable. Here's what happened. Okay, so I usually walk my dog through two different paths, one in the morning and one at night. When walking the morning path yesterday, passing by a small construction site, I was surprised by a wall of bricks occupying the whole sidewalk. And I thought to myself, wow, that's kind of a jerk move. Not even a traffic cone to make people safer when they had to stop on the street. But they were working, carrying the bricks into the site and loading more. So it was inconvenient, but I thought it was just a passing nuisance. Well, today's Friday and a holiday. I went the same route again, and guess what? Another wall of bricks. And when I looked around, nobody was working. They just left that stuff there. And once again, the dog and I had to navigate it. Getting back to the other side of the obstacle, the dog starts sniffing it. He then takes a crap right next to the bricks, and on autopilot, I start leaning to remove his mess, but I wait a minute right then and there. I think to myself, screw these guys. I'm sure they'll walk there and nobody else will, because they'll be dodging the blockade. So you know what? I just leave it. Tomorrow I'll be doing the same route again, and if it's still there, I'll encourage the dog to take another dump right there, and probably also take some photos. I'm new to the city, but if it's not too much work, I'll send it to the government. The neighborhood is pleasant, but I think this city has its priorities pretty messed up, so I have no clue if it'll make a difference. All the sidewalks are on completely different levels, and some are full of holes, and in fact, I sprained my ankle last week because of that. The standard paving material they seem to love over here is very slippery when wet, and trust me, it always rains. Not to mention, there's absolutely no bike lanes anywhere, but they somehow found the time to pass a law blocking non-castrated dogs from dog hotels. I mean, there's one right on my morning route, but of course I can't use it. So it really looks like the city was made to instill pettiness in me. So you know what? Your construction site is your problem, and it's not something I should have to deal with on my morning walk. Okay, I gotta say, I really love this kind of like petty revenge, because it's only apparent if you know what's going on. Like seriously, I completely agree with the original poster here. The public sidewalk is not where you should stack your bricks. It's blocking everybody and it's getting in the way. So I think that leaving some dog droppings is not that big of a deal, and if anything, it leaves a very solid message that these guys need to move their stuff because they are inconveniencing literally everybody. Am I the jerk for not letting my ex-boyfriend sell the tickets that I got him for his birthday? Because right now he's saying that I'm the jerk for not complying with his demands, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, me and my ex-boyfriend, who we will call Brad, had been together for 4 years, and we recently broke up in March. Nothing crazy, it's just that he no longer wanted a relationship, and I am devastated, and I felt like it came out of nowhere, but I respect his decision. The only complication is that we still live together, as I know finding somewhere to live quickly in our city is extremely difficult and expensive. So for the time being, we are still living together until he can move out. Okay, now let's move on. Last fall, I bought Brad 2 tickets to his favorite DJ as a birthday present, and I figured he could bring a friend or someone, since I never intended to go as I don't like rave music. It's also important to note that the tickets were $400. His birthday was last week, and I debated giving him his gift or not, since we are no longer dating, but I figure I might as well since we both take birthdays seriously. He seemed unexcited when I gave him the gift, which crushed my feelings since it was pretty expensive for me. Then I saw on Facebook a few days later that he was selling 2 tickets to the show. Feeling crushed, I asked him why, and he said he actually already had tickets, so he was selling his so that he could use mine. And it's like, sure, I guess that made sense to me. Then the last 2 days days he's been pestering me to send him the tickets on Ticketmaster. When I asked why, he said he might just sell all 4 for the money and not go to the concert at all. Apparently the show is sold out and they are worth a lot. But again, I was crushed since I spent all that money specifically as a gift so he could see his favorite DJ. He said it's his gift and that I'm being a jerk by taking the tickets back. Now, I don't think I'm being a jerk, but if he doesn't want them, I'd rather get my money back. But now he's saying he's gonna sell 3 of them to his friend and keep 1 ticket, which would make me feel better overall, as I feel weird about the whole thing, since I'm still emotional about the breakup and cannot think clearly. So am I being the jerk for not letting him sell the tickets since they were a present? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, what in the world is going on right now? First of all, you should have not given those tickets to him at all, because clearly this guy just doesn't care about you. He's pretending to, but trust me, I just don't think he really gives a crap. And the biggest proof is the way he's acting towards those tickets you gifted him. He's literally not even going to the show anymore, and he's only trying to sell those tickets so that he can get your money. Like for me, if I bought tickets for someone and they're like, never mind, send me the tickets, I'm gonna sell them, then personally I would lose my mind and be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I would rather keep them and sell them myself since you don't give a crap about the tickets. And sure, it's his gift, but guess what? I feel it only really counts if he actually goes to the concert. The value is in going to the thing instead of trying to sell the tickets and be like, oh, I got some money. Because if that was the case, then you would have just given him $400 instead of $400 worth of tickets. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting to give those over to him, but I do think you would be the jerk if you cave and give it to him anyways, because this guy broke up with you and he clearly does not care about you, and you deserve way better than this. Would I be the jerk if I brought up the fact that my mom stole all of my tuition money that my father gave to me for college? Because right now I'm starting to think that I'm not totally over that situation, or the fact that I had to keep a secret from my dad, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so when I was preparing to go to university, my mom confessed that there was no tuition money for me. Through the years, my dad would give her cash to deposit, but she only did that for the first one, and instead she spent the rest of it. And to be completely honest, I wasn't even surprised. I was used to being disappointed by her. She promised that she would pay me back and asked that I never tell my dad. So for 4 years, I thanked them for the tuition money, all while I took out loans. For reasons to do with her narcissism, I have an arm's length relationship with her, but she would say that we're pretty close, as she assumes my smiling and nodding while she drones on about the same stories is somehow a relationship. Now, we have a family cottage that she puts above everything else. She lives there about 90 days of the year, and I've been going there with my girlfriend for about 4 days for a couple of summers, which she always begrudges, as it takes away from her time. But thankfully, my dad supports my going, which is how I pull it off. Well, she recently told me that it was time for me to start paying for some of the maintenance on the cottage, since I also use it. She actually suggested $1,000, which is wildly disproportionate, but instead of doing that, I told her straight up that she could take it out of the tuition I owe you, and we could negotiate the amount with dad. When I said that, she was speechless. She texted me later to say that it was a manipulative thing to bring up the tuition, and to even insinuate that I would tell dad. And she just went on and on. Now, I've been thinking about it, and for starters, I'm hurt and offended that she can't just do a nice thing for me, and she has to get something for it. And secondly, I guess I'm not really over the whole tuition thing. So truly, would I be the jerk for bringing up ancient history and not paying her for use of the cottage? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you would be the jerk, but seriously, I can't understand why you kept this from your dad. The second a parent is trying to be like, ooh, keep this a secret from my spouse, that's the second I'm gonna go to the other person and be like, hey, mom's saying some weird stuff, what's going on? Like, this is seriously so messed up. She literally stole money out of your pocket so that you could go to college, and that is honestly not okay. And I don't care if it's ancient history or whatever you want to call it. If I was in your shoes, I would absolutely scream it from the rooftops, especially if I let it go this far in my life. So no, you would not be the jerk if you did talk about this, because the way she's treating you, in my opinion, is completely inappropriate. An entitled jerk steals my seat on an airplane, forcing me to sit somewhere that I absolutely did not pay for. So I decided to get some revenge by swapping seats with another woman who was so overweight that she literally squished this guy into a seat in a way that I'm sure was incredibly uncomfortable. Here's what happened. Last week, I took a flight from Athens all the way to London, where I'd been visiting relatives. It was a late flight, I was exhausted, and the plane was full. I was in a window seat, which I had chosen since I could rest my head against the walls and sleep, but when I got to my row, there was a guy in my seat. He had big headphones on and had his head turned away from me. I tried telling him that he is in my seat, but he just doesn't respond. Thinking that maybe he can't hear me because of the headphones, I gently tap him on the shoulder, but still I get no reaction. I try again, but I still get nothing, and at this point, he doesn't even turn towards me. And I also need to add that this guy is clearly not asleep. He's sitting upright and I can see his eyes are open. I considered calling over a flight attendant to ask him to move, but there isn't one nearby, and I'm not in the mood for it to be a whole thing. So I just take the middle seat and I quietly fume. A few minutes later, the young woman who is sitting in the aisle seat arrives and takes her seat. She is traveling with her friend, who is sitting in the window seat in the row behind us. They're talking to each other across their seats. Then the woman sitting in the aisle seat turns to me and asks if I can swap with her friend so they can sit together. And to that, I just say sure, no problem. Now at this point, it is important to point out that her friend is very fat. We're talking borderline obese. And no, I'm not fat shaming at all. I'm a heavy guy myself, but she is at least twice as wide as me. I probably would have swapped even if she had not been fat. But you know what? I saw a chance at getting revenge. As I get up to move, I see the guy sitting in my seat has turned around and realize what is about to happen. He does not look happy and gives me a look like he's saying, please don't move. But you know what? I ignore him and I swap the seats. I then spent the flight mostly with my eyes closed as I try and fail to get a nap in. But I do occasionally have a look at the row in front of me, and I'm very satisfied to see that the fat woman in front of me is taking up nearly half the window seat as well as her own seat, and that the guy in my seat is squashed up against the wall of the plane. So I really hope he spent the flight thinking about how if he had just taken his own seat, he would have been able to swap with a fat woman, and I would have been the one pinned against the wall. So maybe next time, think twice before you take someone else's seat, because something like this easily could happen again. Yeah, I can't stand people who steal seats on airplanes and then don't even have the common courtesy of talking to you about it. I also want to say that it's crazy to me that you didn't speak up and say something, because that guy was clearly in the wrong. There's no good excuse for that. He literally stole your seat and is trying to sit there. He deserves to be moved, because you know what? This easily could have not worked out in your favor. That lady could have been like, oh, I'm just gonna stay where I'm at, and then you're stuck in a seat that doesn't belong to you. I think it was really lucky that you wanted to switch, and it is instead just overall unfair that you had to do that. But thankfully, karma was on your side, and from the sounds of it, this guy absolutely deserved to get shut down. My boss took credit for my work and openly admits that that's exactly what he does. So I decided to get some malicious compliance by only doing my job and thus forcing my boss into a corner that he never got out of. Here's what happened. A few years ago, I was hired as a manager to create the contracts department of a tech startup. My boss was on an opposite coast as me and we barely spoke. About a year in, the company hired consultants to overhaul departments, that is, except for contracts, because it was running so smoothly. And you know what? I was truly proud of this. In fact, the company sent me on a paid vacation to the Bahamas as a thank you. After I got back from vacation, I asked for a raise to director level, but my boss said that I just wasn't there. I asked for a list of what I need to do to be a director, and he sent me a list which, by the way, was everything I was already doing, and basically admitted that if I was a director, he would no longer be able to take credit for my work. Friends told me I needed to either leave or put up and shut up, but instead, I chose to destroy with kindness. I wholeheartedly apologized to my manager for supposedly overstepping and said that I'm going to step back into the manager role. I then printed out the manager responsibilities and I posted them to my desk. Well, things went south quicker than I could have even imagined. Things went bad when we started missing sales targets. Products said that my boss agreed to a term in an agreement that would completely destroy their budget and product rollout. My boss didn't know commission agreements and let sales manipulate contracts, so we were paying commission on contracts with termination clauses. I only interjected once to stop a contract amendment from being approved because my boss was unknowingly letting a vice president artificially inflate sales numbers. The controller and CFO had to get involved, and eventually the CEO was called in. Stories started circulating about my boss holding stress balls and cursing in meetings. But you know what? I was more relaxed than ever, and during my newfound free time at work, I studied for and obtained professional certifications. I would also leave work early to get to the gym before it got busy. About a month after I unloaded my added responsibilities, my boss gave me a 7% bonus. It was unspoken, but I could tell he wanted me to take back on the director's responsibilities, all without the title, of course. But you know what? I continued to follow the manager description exactly as written. Fast forward 6 months later, and after taking 10 days of unlimited PTO, I was eventually included in the layoffs. I took 3 months off, and then I got another job at a 35% salary increase. While I am happy to be making more money, I truly love the company and the people that I worked with, and it's defeating to watch someone continually take credit for something that you worked incredibly hard for. Oh my gosh, that really pisses me off because my god, that is unbelievably toxic. Your boss literally admitted, hey, if you leave or if you get a promotion, then I can't take credit for your work, so let's not do that. And it's like, dude, are you serious? You're taking credit for my work? Stop it. Like that for me in my own personal life is one of my biggest pet peeves about working in an office setting. People above you have every opportunity to take your work for granted and then try to pass it off as their own, even though they themselves haven't done anything that you're doing. And I'm willing to bet they couldn't even do your job. And the crappy boss in this story is a perfect example of that. The second the original poster did their job description is pretty much exactly when all of this fell apart. And it's all because of the boss, not because of the original poster. The boss could have easily helped them climb the ladder and get a higher position, but instead they wanted to keep them down, and that is so nasty. So I love this revenge because seriously, this guy absolutely deserves it. I installed a lockbox for my cheese, and now my roommate is saying I'm creating division in the house. But despite the fact that she's the one that made me do this, as she is constantly eating my food, I'm now worried that I might have been overreacting by doing this. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I know this might sound insane, but please just hear me out. I'm a 24-year-old male, and I live with two roommates. One is a 29-year-old male, and the other one is a 28-year-old female. Now, one of them, namely the guy, is fine, whereas the other one is a fridge pirate with sticky fingers and zero shame. I don't even think she likes half the stuff that she steals, but just eats it because it's there. Well, the final straw was my cheese. My mother brings me cheese from my home country every time she visits, and no, I can't buy it here. I had it hidden behind the milk for safekeeping, but I opened the fridge yesterday and it was gone. She then said to me, "Oh, I didn't think it was a big deal. I mean, it is just cheese." But it's like, no, it's not just cheese. That cheese was the only joy I had left this week. So you know what? I snapped and I went into full chaos. I bought a small fridge lockbox, and yeah, it's a plastic safe that goes inside the fridge. There's a combo lock and everything on it, and I put my cheese, my fancy yogurt, my cold brew, and my chocolate in there. I then labeled it by saying unauthorized entry will be considered an act of war. Well, she saw it, and now she says I'm creating division in the house, and I'm being hostile and passive aggressive. But it's like, am I? Are you serious right now? Or is this what happens when you push a peaceful person to the brink over dairy? Because honestly, I'm about 3 bites away from putting air tags into my hummus, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update that they would like to share. Here's what they had to say. Okay, I did not expect this to blow up like this, because I am laughing so hard. I haven't even got the time to read all the comments. There's just way too many. However, my two big takeaways are people asking what the cheese was, and people saying that the note is aggressive. Now, the cheese is Asadero cheese. It's Mexican cheese, and yes, if you look it up, you can probably buy it online, but it is not the same. The one that I like and get is from this small town 2 hours away from my hometown that has maybe 10,000 people in it. It just has its own unique taste, and it makes sense to me. But also, the note is not aggressive, it's a joke. Like, I'm not actually gonna go to war, although it would be fun. Instead, I'm saying something like, hey, I'm locking my food away from you, but we're still cool. However, please stop stealing. Anyways, I'm pretty sure we've moved on from all of this, as she is buying me lunch tomorrow, and I'm not getting rid of my lockbox, nor am I getting a mini fridge for my room. Because you know what? I really like the idea of her seeing tasty stuff in my lockbox while still not being able to eat it. Okay, I've got to say I love this story because yeah, this absolutely is hilarious. For starters, you were completely in the right for saying no, I don't want anybody near my stuff, as well as putting your valuable food in a lockbox and saying, hey, I don't want anybody taking this. And for anyone who might be like, oh man, that's such an aggressive thing to do. You know what's more aggressive? Stealing someone's food and being like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. That's a level of annoying that I am not willing to put up with, and I don't know anybody who should. Like seriously, that is so uncalled for, it's not even funny. So I personally think it's hilarious that you're like, oh man, we're going to war if you actually take my stuff. Because obviously she gets it, and it seems like you guys have made up in some kind of way, which in my opinion is really great to hear. But also, it sent the message quite clearly that, hey, you can't eat my stuff anymore. And sometimes with roommates, especially ones that eat all your food, that might be all it takes just to get them to stop. So yeah, you're definitely not the jerk for what you did, and I don't think you overreacted by locking up your food. Because from the sounds of it, it kinda needed to happen, and thankfully it kind of all worked out in the end. An entitled old jerk steals from me the last disabled parking spot, despite the fact that he himself was not disabled. So my manager and I decided to get some petty revenge by not only calling the police, but also getting his car towed in the process. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female and I have POTS. It's a disability that causes my heart rate to spike when I stand up. This causes symptoms such as dizziness, nausea, and chest pain. Some people pass out from POTS, but thankfully I don't. When it's very hot or very cold, my symptoms get worse. I live in Florida where it's hot all the time, and because of this, my cardiologist filled out a form allowing me to get a disabled parking permit, and the DMV gave me a license plate with a disabled symbol, which shows that I'm allowed to park in disabled spots. So I work at a science museum, and last week, as I was pulling into the parking lot, I was cut off by a Cybertruck. This Cybertruck sped into the last disabled parking spot, and this was the last parking spot in our lot, making me have to park across the street. And mind you, it was about 90 degrees that day. So I walked across the street, passing the Cybertruck as I made my way to the entrance of the museum. And to my shock, I saw that the Cybertruck didn't have a disabled wheelchair icon on the license plate nor the placard in the window. So not only was this guy an idiot rude driver, but they had also taken the last disabled parking spot when I, an actual disabled person, really needed it. Now at this point I was livid, and I was feeling like I was going to puke from my heart rate spiking from the walk to the museum. I went inside and I told my manager, who was incredibly appalled, and tried to find the person before calling the cops, as in the state of Florida, it's a towable offense that also results in a fine of $250, and this is displayed on every disabled parking sign in the state. Well, he wasn't in the museum, and we checked the cameras, and it turns out he went to a restaurant across the street. So he was using our parking lot to avoid paying for parking. So my manager then called the police and a towing company. 2 police cars showed up, and the cops said that they'd give him a ticket, and that since he's nowhere to be found, they would call a tow truck at his expense and impound the vehicle until he pays. And for Florida cops, they were actually shockingly nice and helpful. The tow truck arrived and tried to tow the Cybertruck, but as they attempted to pull out, the Cybertruck's back panel flew off. They had to reattach the Cybertruck to the tow, and eventually they were able to drive off with it. Well, a few minutes later, a man in his 50s appeared yelling about how his Cybertruck was gone. The police then explained that they had to have him towed since he was parking in a disabled parking spot. The man continued to carry on for like 10 minutes before the cops said they would arrest him, and he finally shut up. They then wrote him a ticket and the cops finally left. Well, the man stayed. He yelled at my manager without end until a Tesla finally showed up to pick him up. And honestly, that's just a little bit of karma for the trouble he caused me by stealing the last handicap parking spot that I desperately needed. Oh man, I literally cannot imagine being that much of a piece of garbage where you would willingly take a handicap parking spot when there are probably plenty of other spots you could have parked at. And I know exactly the kind of person you're talking about. They drive like morons, they treat everybody like crap, and then when things don't go their way, it's everybody else's fault. But it's like, dude, you don't need that spot. That's meant for people who actually have disabilities. And trust me, the original poster absolutely fits the bill. What they're dealing with is no joke, especially in the hot, humid sun like Florida. The possibility of them being dizzy or getting nauseous or even passing out, like that is serious down there. You can't even mess with that. So it makes sense as to why they would need that kind of spot. But regardless, this is incredibly satisfying because that guy was a complete jerk. And based on the way he was reacting to all of this, in my opinion, I think he absolutely deserved to get towed. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled ex-boyfriend said that I had no business becoming a lawyer, saying that I would never even be paralegal and that I would be better off being a court clerk. But today I proved him wrong by showing him that not only will I be a lawyer first, but also I'm going to a much better school than he could ever dream of getting into. Here's what happened. Okay, so my 3-year odyssey of spite finally came together yesterday. When I was a fresh college graduate in 2022, I dated an attorney for 3 months. He was a talented lawyer, spoke lucidly about what he did for work, and I trusted his opinions about the legal profession. So after I finished a postgraduate internship, I told him my real postgraduate aspiration was to get a job at a law firm as a paralegal and work as one until I was ready to apply for law school. When I said this, he literally scoffed at me and told me I would be better off as a court clerk. I don't mean to harp on court clerks at all. It is a difficult job, yes, but it is more administrative in nature. And from the way he said it, it was exceedingly clear he meant the comment to be derogatory. He didn't elaborate on why he said this, but it was heavily implied. Well, I was taken aback and really hurt. But at 21 years old, I hadn't learned how to have a spine yet, so I just kind of brushed it off. A few weeks later, I was working my first paralegal job, and we broke up shortly afterwards for reasons I'm sure you can guess. Anyways, he was right that I'm not going to be a paralegal. I took my LSAT last fall, I scored in the 98th percentile, sent out my applications, committed to UC Berkeley Law yesterday, which by the way is ranked in about 90 spots above his law school, but you know, who's counting? And at the end of the day, I'm going to become a lawyer. He is currently blocked on LinkedIn after I was the recipient of some profile creeping from him, but today I'm going to unblock him so that he can see exactly what's going on. And you know what? It's definitely reminiscent of the scene from Legally Blonde where she gets this prestigious internship. And honestly, with all things considered, my revenge on this guy is absolutely oh so sweet. Oh man, this is so funny because I know exactly what she's talking about, and this really is like straight out of Legally Blonde, both the musical and the movie. So good for you for getting this revenge because that guy sounds like a piece of garbage, and I love the fact that you threw this right back in his face in such a hilarious fashion. My husband's idiotic friend threw away most of our utensils and cookware after she stayed there as a favor to rent our apartment out while we went to my home country to visit my mom. mom. And now I'm demanding that she pay me back for all the stuff she threw away, despite the fact that my husband is begging me to let it go. And at this point, I feel like I'm losing my mind and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, my husband has a group of friends who have been together since school. I moved to his country for work and study, and I come from a different culture. We welcomed our lovely baby girl, and we are lucky to be in a country where parents can take a good amount of time off. We decided to spend 2 months in my country so my mom can bond with the baby, since she couldn't be there when my first was born due to COVID. Coincidentally, a couple we know was returning from a trip around the world and needed to rent an apartment. So it was a perfect match. They cover our rent, and we can be relaxed since they can look after our apartment and car. Well, once we returned, I noticed our kitchen was almost empty. I mean stuff like baking utensils, forks, knives, pans, cooking ingredients, casseroles, even utensils my mom brought from my home country for special meals, they were all just gone. And you know what? I was furious. I still cannot believe how someone can do such a thing. She replaced one of the 2 frying pans and that was it. We still have a few pans, but specialty items to cook and bake different things are just completely gone. Now my husband's allegedly talked to the friend, and we'll call this friend Sarah for the sake of the story, and Sarah acted like she did a favor. Once she realized we were not happy, she argued that only those she could not make clean enough were thrown away. And I say allegedly because my husband tends to minimize and diminish the issue just so he doesn't cause any waves. Well, I demanded that she replaces every single item. My husband is begging me to let it go and to not lose a long friendship, but I feel like I'm in crazy town. I mean, who does that? Especially without talking to the owners of the house. If you don't know what something is, why throw it away? I simply cannot wrap my head around it. So seriously, am I the jerk and is she just doing us a favor? Or am I being gaslit to high heaven? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, I would be super pissed off if someone did that to me. Seriously, this is so uncalled for. You can't just throw someone's stuff away all because you're like, well, I can't get this clean enough, so I'm gonna throw it out. It's like, first of all, why did you dirty up pretty much all of her dishes? And secondly, your first instinct is to throw it away? Like, what are you doing? That is not your stuff. You literally don't own that. If anything, that means you just clean it up as best as you can and say, hey, I did the best I could, and then you leave it there. You don't throw it away as if you own it. And the fact that your husband is trying to be like, oh, don't ruin this friendship, just let it go. It's not that big of a deal. Dude, this is a big deal. This lady literally threw away some of your property. It doesn't matter what it is. This is so uncalled for. So no, you're not the jerk because this lady absolutely is required to pay you back. And the fact that your husband is fighting you on this, in my opinion, is absolutely uncalled for. Would I be the jerk for canceling a hotel booking that I made with people that I no longer speak to anymore, as they have ostracized me from their group in a terrible way? Because right now I'm not sure what to do and it's honestly so confusing. Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old female and I made a hotel booking for myself, my sister, and 3 other girls back in October for a concert in June. However, since December, I had an argument with one of the girls that led to her ignoring me and no longer speaking to me, with the other 2 seemingly taking her side and the 3 of them ostracizing me from the group. This led to me moving out of the flat we shared, and since then, none of them have attempted to contact me and seem to just get angry with me over every little thing that I do. I tried multiple times to apologize and amend things with them, which only resulted in them either ignoring me or dismissing the issue as nothing and pretending nothing was wrong. Now that was a very, very shortened summary of what happened, and I've come to the conclusion that I do not want to make amends with these people and do not want to speak to them anytime soon for the way that they've treated me. Well, here's the big issue. I do not want to stay at the same hotel as them for this concert in June. The advice I've received from almost everyone in my life is to cancel the booking and rebook another hotel for me and my sister, and they think this is an appropriate response to the way they've treated me these past 6 months. I don't like this option because I feel obligated to tell them that I'm canceling the booking, which undoubtedly will start an argument that I'm not mentally prepared to handle. Also, it's a refundable pay-on-the-day booking that can be canceled up to a week before the stay. I booked 2 rooms, one for my sister and I and the other for them. My initial plan was to cancel one of the rooms and transfer the booking of the other room to them. However, I've been told that my card will still be attached to the booking and that it might not even be possible to do this without talking to any of them about it. I'm starting now to not want to cancel the booking altogether and book something else for just my sister and I, as I know for a fact that they will not sort anything out themselves or talk to me about this until the very last minute. A lot of people have been telling me that I need to grow a backbone and let them deal with the consequences of refusing to communicate with me for over half a year now. So would I be the jerk for doing this? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be straight up with you and say that no, you would not be the jerk for this. If you did cancel that booking, you would be well within your right to do so, because these people screwed you over. They literally ostracized you from the group, treated you like garbage, garbage and show their true colors. So for them to even begin to expect to have any kind of like hotel room later on this year, in my opinion, would be insane. They should not get to reap the rewards of you setting this up for them if they're gonna treat you like garbage. I'm sorry, that's just not gonna happen. So yes, it's gonna suck, and yes, they're gonna be upset, but at the end of the day, you owe these people nothing. They've proven that they don't care about you and that they are not real friends. And that, in my opinion, is more than enough of a reason for you to pull the plug on this booking and honestly never look back. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend to stop inviting people over to my place? Because after I found out she scheduled a surprise birthday party for my mother at my house, I told her that she's going way too fast and that she needs to stop this right now. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I met my girlfriend back in February. She is very nice and sweet, but she likes to plan stuff without asking me. When she met my work friends at a pub, she invited all of them over the weekend after at my place. She basically told them that they should come over to our place even though we don't live together, saying that next weekend we'll have dinner and drinks and watch the game. I then asked her later why she did that, and she said she was being nice and that she loves cooking. Now the thing is, I like going out for drinks with them sometimes, but I wasn't really close to some of them at all. Anyways, I dropped the subject and I helped her with hosting, preparing, and paid for some of the extra groceries and all the stuff we might need. She went above and beyond and everyone absolutely loved her. But now I'm getting a call from my brother asking about my mom's birthday party at our place next Saturday. And honestly, I was genuinely surprised. Apparently, she invited everyone for a surprise birthday party for my mom. And mind you, she's only met my family maybe 4 times in total. My dad is kind of annoyed because he wanted to take her alone to her favorite restaurant and had the whole evening planned but decided to postpone it so that my girlfriend doesn't get hurt. I then told my girlfriend that she is moving way too fast. We don't even live together yet. And also, please stop inviting people to my place without talking to me first. Well, after I said that, she's now incredibly upset with me. She said I'm being ungrateful and that I'm the jerk. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I feel like I'm losing my mind. No, you're definitely not the jerk. Your girlfriend is out of her mind if she thinks she can invite people over to your place without talking to you first, let alone inviting people that you barely know. And I totally get it. Drinking friends and normal friends are completely different. So for her to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a big party, come over next weekend, like that's really intrusive, and that is honestly so uncalled for. Because of course she didn't invite them to her place. Instead, she said, oh yeah, we're gonna go to my boyfriend's place, while conveniently saying, oh, it's our place. But for me, the icing on the cake of her crossing the line was her scheduling a surprise birthday party for your mother. Seriously, what's going on here? This is such weird treatment, it's not even funny. She's only met these people 4 times, and she's already been like, okay guys, let's have a party for her. Not to mention, the original poster has only been dating them for like, what, 2 or 3 months? Like, are you kidding me right now? That is so fast, it's not even funny. So yeah, she is absolutely being a jerk, and the fact that she's trying to frame this as if you're being ungrateful, in my opinion, is an awful manipulation tactic, because she is literally just trying to get her way by making you feel guilty in the process. Am I the jerk for saying no to my girlfriend's friend, who literally wanted to use our kitchen for well over a week, all because she didn't want to use the one her dorm provided her? Because right now I'm very frustrated and my girlfriend just doesn't see where I'm coming from. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my girlfriend and I live together in our apartment. Recently, one of her friends, who I'm not really close with, asked if she could come over and just use our kitchen. She lives in a dorm but says the kitchen there is too dirty to cook in. Now that already felt strange to me because I barely know her, and it's not like it's an emergency. But what made it even weirder is that my girlfriend told me that we should feel honored that her friend asked us instead of asking someone else. And honestly, that rubbed me the wrong way. It felt kind of entitled, like we're supposed to say yes out of flattery. Also, this isn't a situation where the friend is in trouble or starving. She has a meal plan and can eat at the dining halls. It's not like she doesn't have options. She just suddenly wanted to cook something and decided her dorm kitchen was too gross. My guess is she remembered our place being clean because we hosted her and a few others a few times for dinner. But here's the thing, this wasn't a social request at all. It wasn't something like, hey, want to cook together sometime? Or even asking, could we hang out and cook together? It was literally just, can I use your kitchen to cook my own food? That's it. No invitation to connect or spend time together, just a one-way request to use our space. Now, another important detail, I'm the one who uses the kitchen 99% of the time. I do almost all the cooking and the dishes, so it feels like my personal space in the house. It's not just a shared utility room to me. It's where I do something I actually enjoy and take care of the both of us. So letting someone else use it, especially someone I don't really know that well, isn't something I'm automatically cool with. For what it's worth, I'm not against helping out her friends. Over the summer, one of her friends, who I really like and would love to be closer to, stayed with us for a week because she didn't have a place to stay temporarily. We both agreed to it, and of course she had full use of the kitchen and everything else. It felt mutual and respectful. But this current situation doesn't feel the same. It was just a request out of nowhere, with no real context or urgency. And you know what? It just completely caught me off guard. Also, I've had a negative experience before with one of her friends who turned out not to be supportive of our relationship. So I know I might be a little guarded now. When I reacted by saying, "What? That's weird," my girlfriend told me I was overreacting and being rude about her friend. So it really makes me question if this kind of request is normal or if I'm just being way too sensitive. I mean, if it were like a one-time request, I honestly think I'd be okay with it. But she wanted to use our kitchen for a whole week, including sharing our refrigerator space. And we live in a pretty small one-bedroom, one-bath apartment, so that's what made it feel like a bigger ask than it initially sounded. She mentioned wanting to cook things like chicken breasts and avocado toast, and it sounds like she would want to make it every day. So am I the jerk in this situation, or am I completely out of line? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I do not think you're the jerk at all. This really is a weird request. Like seriously, this is so like intrusive, it's not even funny. And the fact that your girlfriend doesn't see a problem with that is also really annoying. That'd be like someone coming into my house and being like, "Hey, I need your computer for a week." And it's like, dude, I do everything on my computer. I work, I game, I do everything, like literally everything. So if my partner then chimed in and said, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal, you're overreacting," I would be pissed off. I'd be like, "Are you kidding me right now? You're never on this thing. You never take care of it. You're not the one cleaning it out. Like seriously, this is not okay." And for me, I think it totally applies in this situation too. You're the only one using that kitchen. You're the only one cooking or doing anything major that involves food. So for this person you don't even know that well to step in and be like, "I'm using your kitchen," it's obvious that they're just doing it for like selfish reasons, and the fact that they don't want to clean up the kitchen they do have and just want to freeload off of what you already have. And that is really annoying, and I would not want to deal with that. So no, you're not the jerk. I think your girlfriend's completely wrong, and this friend is absolutely out of line for demanding such a weird request. I feel incredibly jaded over the way I was treated at my previous job, and now I'm unemployed and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've had this job since I was about 16 years old. I've gone through several jobs, and most of them I walked away from the toxic environment. I'm 20 years old, and recently I moved to a different state to be with my partner, and I've gone about 7 months since my last paycheck and job. I never realized how lucky I was in my old town when my resumes and applications would go through the first try. I've had one job since moving, and I lost it to a new job requirements that I wasn't made aware of. I went 2 days sick, and yes, I found other people to cover me, and was told an hour after informing the current manager that I found someone to cover me that if I don't have a doctor's note the next time I went into work, then I shouldn't come back at all. And I was told this after I had covered for several other people, gave ample warning if I was going to show up late, and went out of my way to learn new things out of my position just to help when needed. I know I wasn't part of the company for that long, maybe 5.5 months, but still it really hurt. I knew several employees who were doing their jobs wrong or not at all, but I can't complain about them or report them as my partner and their brother work at the place now. I don't want to drag this location down with me as my partner still needs an income as other jobs refuse to give any feedback on their resumes and applications. I apologize to anyone who read through this. I'm just trying to scream into the void to vent because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I know exactly where you're coming from. I've been in work situations like that before where like the rules change all of a sudden and you end up being the last person to find out, but not because of a lack of trying. And it's so funny to me, the very people who probably were like, "Oh man, thank goodness the original poster stepped in and did all that extra work," are the same people who are going to be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but you're doing it wrong." It's like, dude, why not just tell me? Why not just tell me because clearly I didn't know because I never get sick, instead of warning me and being like, "Oh, the next time don't even come back at all." Like if that's not proof enough these people never cared about you and they only see you as a number or some kind of like commodity so that they don't have to step in and do the work, then honestly nothing will. And let's think about this for a second. Do you really want to work for people who act like that? Like that seriously sounds like a nightmare that would really not last long for probably anybody. And I don't know about anybody else listening, but for me, I like to feel valued and appreciated at any job that I'm working at. And the second they start talking about, well, if you don't do it right, don't even bother coming back at all. That to me is like a giant red flag being thrown up into the sky where I'm like, oh my gosh, I know this one. These people suck and they don't actually like me. And then that's my cue to start looking for another job because you know what? I don't need that for a second. So truly, I hope things work out for you and I'm so sorry that you're going through a rough time because you took a risk to move out with your partner and live with them and try and find some kind of life together. But hopefully everything works out for you because you honestly deserve the very best. My entitled older sister is absolutely disgusting and does nothing to maintain her personal personal hygiene. And after her bedroom became a pigsty, she decided to move into my bedroom while I was at college simply because she refuses to clean up her own bedroom, leaving me in such a state that I'm honestly disgusted and incredibly shocked, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so the issues that I've been having with my family have been ongoing for almost a decade, and this really might be my breaking point. Close to 3 years ago, my mother moved into her new rented house. After her and my dad split, she was the occupier of the old house, but my dad's name was on the mortgage and they decided to sell it and split what remained. Now, my mom lives in a council house with my 2 siblings, one older sister and one younger sister. Even since the move, things have been tense and disastrous. My family has an issue with being clean, stemming from a pet buying obsession, reinforced laziness, and a complete disregard for personal hygiene. I often had to carry the burden of keeping most of the house clean, except for people's bedrooms. I cleaned the bathroom, the kitchen, the hallways, and the living room, as well as my bedroom for as long as I still live there. Several incidents with my mother meant I began spending less and less time there, with my dad and my grandparents thankfully being really accommodating. And currently, I'm away at university, but still I legally live there at my mother's house. Now it's my Easter break, and I decided to first stay at my dad's before visiting my mom's. Now, it's important to note that it is completely normal for me to just show up sometimes. Scheduling can be weird, and I have my own house keys and bedroom, so it was never an issue. Well, that is, except for this Easter. I had learned last night, the night before I was set to show up, that my older sister had now moved into my bedroom, a bedroom which I had stayed in since moving in, and that I had paid for all the furniture and even decorated for. And this was for a month, all without being asked or even notified. Now, you might be wondering, what was the reason behind this? Well, my older sister's bedroom is a tip. She still was at university while my mother moved house, but now she is back at home. At first, she was given a pop-up bed to sleep on, with plans to buy her an actual one for her bedroom, provided that room was to be made for it. Well, her bedroom is now a nightmare, partially self-imposed and partially imposed upon her. Broken furniture, bags of rubbish, dirty clothing, and dishes everywhere. Classic nightmare scenario for me. It is a year's worth of mess without any major attempt at cleaning, to where now she can't even use her pop-up bed, although she stopped using it anyways by her own choosing. She has for the past year been in her room for the day and then went to sleep in the living room on the sofa at night. And this is also in a foul and disgusting state due to pests, but it's no longer my domain, so it's like whatever. I have repeatedly offered to help clean out her room and to get it into a livable state, going so far as to offer to hire a skip so the entire household can get rid of the junk and bin bags, which are genuinely piled up at this point. But she said it was fine and that it would be sorted. Now, I had before been asked whether she could temporarily inhabit my bedroom, considering I wasn't there most of the time, and my room was in a much nicer condition. Under normal circumstances, I might have, but my sister literally doesn't shower. She doesn't clean up rubbish, she leaves moldy food around for weeks or even months, and she cannot be trusted to not damage things. I made my discomfort with her taking my bedroom very clear, especially when asked about it. And again, I have repeatedly offered to help her sort out her living space so that it can be tidy and she can just have a normal space. But no, apparently that wasn't good enough, and clearly my bedroom should be given up for her sake. Now, in my eyes, this is entitled by itself, but the tipping point for me was when she replied to my messages about not being told that she had moved into my bedroom by complaining that I hadn't informed my family ahead of time that I would be coming home for Easter, which is, by the way, a thing that I have never had to do before, nor had I ever even been asked to do so before, which is only an issue because she took my bedroom without permission. Now, the situation might be being improved, with my mother only sleeping at her house half the time anyways, and she's offered up her bedroom for the weekend, but this incident has left me pretty hurt and really distrustful. My space can no longer be trusted to be my space. I can't even count on being told my room was being slept in, and it's just left me pretty emotionally exhausted. Ultimately, I think it should have been my call to let her stay in my room or not, but at the bare minimum, I should have been told about it and have been given time to sort out the rest of my stuff should I want it removed from the room itself. It especially shouldn't be painted as me being in the wrong for daring to be annoyed that my room was taken without my permission, simply because I didn't tell them I intended to visit without enough notice. What should I do? Oh my gosh, I would be so pissed off. This is honestly so infuriating. For starters, you literally pay for the room. You pay for all the furniture, you're the reason that place looks actually nice, even somewhat, and it quite literally is your space. So for anybody to try and come in and be like, oh, we're taking over because my place is a mess, and yours is the only clean place in the house. Like, if that's not proof enough that they are the problem, then I just don't know what is. Seriously, they're going about this acting like you're at fault all because you didn't say, oh, I'm coming home by the way. I sure hope my stuff isn't taken over. Like, what? What What are you talking about? I pay for this room. This is mine. You can't just take it, dude. So yeah, your older sister is completely out of line, and your mom's out of line for allowing this to happen, because that space is yours, especially since you paid for it. And the fact that anybody's disrespecting that, in my opinion, is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An idiotic company keeps calling me at all hours of the day, wanting to contact me about their stupid business. But despite the fact that I signed myself up for the do not call list, these people literally refuse to listen, forcing me to get some petty revenge in a way that I'm sure they were never expecting. Here's what happened. So back in the mid-2000s, my family and I lived in West Michigan. I had signed up for the do not call list, and it had been generally successful. Even with this, a local home renovation company started calling my home landline. Every time they called, we would tell them we were not interested and to please remove us from their call list. But still, we got calls from them. Fast forward about 6 months to a weekend where my father and I were installing some fencing. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and we walk out the front door and go to the back of the house. When we walk out of the house, I notice a 20-something-year-old in khakis and a golf shirt walking down the sidewalk, but I didn't think anything about it. As Dad and I are getting our tools together in the garage on the back of the backyard, this guy walks up to us, and yes, he walked through the yard uninvited and tries to make small talk and introduces himself as a sales schmuck from the previously mentioned company. He says to me, "Anything I can help you guys with today?" And we say, "Sure, grab a bag of red mixed concrete and follow me." And no surprise, but he declined, so I told him in a polite way to go away. As this of course irritated me, later that day I looked up the company online and I found out the name of their head of marketing. I reached out to him on Monday and explained that I didn't appreciate them continuing to call me, and I most definitely didn't appreciate his sales schmuck wandering around my yard. And the best part is, I got lots of apologies once he realized I was serious. After that call, I got 1 or 2 more calls from them before it stopped completely, and most likely the reason they stopped was because each time they called us, I called him and I read him the riot act, making it very clear that I don't want them calling me. Oh man, this is hilarious because my god, I think we've all been there. Some stupid company that you want nothing to do with is not getting the picture. They don't understand that no, you don't want to deal with them, and it's super frustrating that they're not listening. They even had somebody showing up to your house, like come on, that is so annoying. So honestly, I think the fact that you're calling them directly and calling up the person in charge of marketing, like that is brilliant. That probably really got it through to them that no, you're not interested, because their behavior was super inappropriate, and I don't blame you for getting pissed off. I was stripped of my manager position at my job, all because I was in the hospital for 2 months, resulting in my company suffering as I maliciously complied and refused to do any of my former manager duties. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was a manager of a programming department. I initially had 5 programmers reporting to me, and I was able to spend half of my time programming and my other half managing. I had always gotten exceeds or far exceeds expectations on my annual reviews. About 10 years later, my team had 25 people, and I was spending less and less time programming. Fast forward a few years later, and I missed 2 months during the year for a surgery and hospital stay, and in my annual review, my boss, who knew nothing about programming, told me that I was not doing a good job, and the programming department was missing deliverable dates, which is probably because I was in the hospital. They wanted me to go back to just programming, and it was there that I was stripped of my manager title, and I only focused on programming. And while I was pissed off, I told him that I can do that. I told my former staff what had happened and told them to direct all questions to my boss, who knew 0 things about programming. He was overwhelmed, and soon senior management figured out that my boss was the problem and not me. They then canned him and replaced him with the vice president of programming in the United Kingdom, and she was great since she started as a programmer and was an excellent boss in general. Since I was now just a programmer, all of the managers were in the United Kingdom, and I told my former staff to direct all questions to their new boss in the United Kingdom. Since there was a 6-hour time difference and we only overlapped 2 or 3 hours each day, that made getting questions answered in a timely fashion quite difficult. In the meantime, my health wasn't the best, and my doctor told me I should work maybe 4 days a week, or at most 32 hours of work a week, so that my health wouldn't continue to suffer. Since my employer was a strict 40-hour work week company, I looked for another job and got 8 job offers in about a month, and I was ready to resign. Finally, after a few months, my new boss asked me to be a manager again because of the time difference between the United States and the United Kingdom, and because I have the most experience as a programmer in the company. Well, instead, I gave her my resignation and I explained why. She then asked me what it would take to get me to stay, and I told her that I wanted a 10% raise and that I wanted to work 4 days a week at 32 hours max. I then gave her 24 hours to respond, and surprisingly, she spoke to the higher ups and finally came back the next day and agreed. Wow, what a twist. Like seriously, I did not expect that. I was expecting them to be like, oh no, we can't pay you that much, and then like turn around and treat you like garbage. Like I really didn't expect that to work out. Like that really is amazing. So good for you for showing these people exactly why they're so stupid, while also pretty much showing that yeah, you're super valuable. Because if they had just allowed you to do your job, despite your obvious health problems, this all could have been taken care of without half the headache. Am I the jerk for kicking my guests out of my house 11 hours before their flight just so I can ensure that my day off is actually meant for a day of rest? Because right now they're calling me selfish, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my friend and his wife have made plans to visit us this summer for a weekend stay. The flight is 2 hours, so not really a long journey for them. We have our home professionally cleaned regularly, and we go all in to be good hosts to our guests. However, with any good thing, some people try to take advantage. I usually will take an extra day from work after guests leave to get rest, or even tidy up the house just a little bit. It's just a peaceful time for me to return to the normalcy of our household after being in host mode. Before my friend booked his flight, my husband let it slip that I will not be working the Monday after my friends stay with us. Well, the next thing I know, my friend tells me that they will be flying out on a red-eye the Monday that I took off for rest. This means they will arrive early Friday morning and leave late Monday night. To that, I responded that I will be taking them to the airport as early as 8 o'clock Monday morning so I can have my day of rest like I planned. My friend tells me that he doesn't understand why they can't just hang out at our place or have us show them around town more that Monday since they have a late flight. But I explained to them that that day off is for me to rest, not to continue to be their host. I told them that they are more than welcome to leave their luggage here if they want to go explore on their own, but we will not be hosting them or playing tour guide after Monday morning. He goes on to admit that it was cheaper for him to book the later flight on Monday, and that it's not a big deal for him and his wife to just hang out at my house all day until it's time for them to fly out. Keep in mind that I will have to take them to the airport or pay for rideshare because he refuses to pay. I will also have to feed them. I told him that they are welcome to visit and stay with us, but staying at our house all day Monday is not an option, and he needs to make other arrangements. He's now accusing me of being a horrible friend, and his wife is saying that we're the jerks. So honestly, am I at fault here? Because right now I'm really frustrated. Oh man, this is really stupid because no, you are definitely not the jerk. You literally just said, hey, you can't stay Monday. I'm sorry, but it's not happening. I'm gonna take you to the airport. You're gonna figure something out because that day really is for you to rest. And if they were good friends, they would absolutely understand. The fact that they want to try and sit there and argue with you and be like, oh, come on, we could just hang out at your house. This isn't that big of a deal. And it's like, yeah, it is a big deal. You're literally intruding on my life and I don't want that. So no, you're not the jerk. This is really dumb in my opinion. And the fact that they're trying to guilt trip you about this, in my opinion, is incredibly toxic. My father's behavior towards my boyfriend is disgusting, as he literally has implied he would take him out if he ever met him. And right now I'm worried about the safety of my boyfriend, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 17-year-old female and I'm turning 18 in a few months, and I also graduated high school. I met a boy this year and we started dating, and it's been great. Nothing explicit or weird. We genuinely have fun and enjoy each other's company. Soon, real life is about to hit us and we plan to fight for this relationship. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Why do all of this for a high school relationship? It's just gonna end anyways. Well, I feel like my father also feels that same way. So truly, this is nothing new that I'm hearing. My father has always been in my life, always provided for me, always taught me wrong from right, but he's also been the first man in my life to show me disappointment, mistreatment, insecurity, narcissism, and over self-esteem and entitlement to the T. My father is a man who is very full of himself. He hates people, he looks down on the people around him as if he's a god, speaks highly of himself at all times, plays overly too much, invades privacy, and he's very in his own head about everything. I fear that's also where I get some of my mental illness from, because I'm so much like him, and I unfortunately realized it after my mother complained to me about my responses and behavior over the years. All my life, my father has told me about men, and even said that if one of them ever came into my life, he would take them out, if you know what I mean. Or he would say he would do horrible things to him if there ever was a him in my life. I recently told my parents separately that I was dating this boy, my mom first and then my dad. My mother was upset that I didn't say anything sooner, which I then went to my dad and he seemed okay with it, but it was the little stuff he said after the conversation. My father has brought up conversation in regards to the guy I'm dating that were intimidating and harsh on him for just being a man around me. My father has even made comments on his race, trying to be funny. I cannot trust my father with meeting him. Many people don't like my father, especially friends of mine, knowing the things he's done or said, and I don't feel comfortable, and I'm afraid he's going to scare the guy away, which is what I don't want. I'm growing going to love this boy. And I don't want to sound like I'm being some hopeless romantic of young love, but we both are putting our hands in to stay together after graduating. I don't want to cut my father off because he's always been there for me, but I feel as if I should keep most of my personal life business like dating to myself, all because of his behavior. I just don't want him to invade and ruin this for me because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, if I was in your shoes, I would be warning my boyfriend immediately. I would tell him, hey, my dad is a little insane and he might try to hurt you. And that is absolutely not okay. Like seriously, that is some scary stuff. So yeah, the way your dad is acting is super creepy and in my opinion, absolutely unacceptable. An entitled, obnoxious employee tries to cut a customer in front of us in line, despite the fact that we were literally almost done with the guy we were working with, leaving me scratching my head and realizing that that guy was being super rude and entitled. Here's what happened. So my husband and I recently did a home improvement project. We shopped at a local big box store for lumber and other supplies, and the store will cut the lumber and plywood for you, and we had about 5 cuts we needed, all very different, so it had to be done one piece at a time. We waited in line behind a few people also having cuts done, and this was no problem. It is the system, and we waited patiently for our turn. When the employee helping us was on our 3rd cut, an older man came up and began waiting. They had one 2x4 that needed cut. They were patiently waiting, and one of them went to grab some other stuff and left the lady there in line behind us. Another staff member came up to the lady and spoke with her and then yelled out to the employee, who we will call Keith for the sake of the story, by saying, hey Keith, this lady has one simple cut I need to do. Well, Keith didn't hear him because he had earplugs in and the saw was really loud, and he was on our 4th cut. So the employee yelled out again, just one fast cut, and Keith had to turn off the machine, take out his earplugs and say, what? The other employee then said it again, and Keith was grabbing our last board to cut, and I politely said to the other employee, well, we only have one more cut to do, we'll be done really quickly. After I said this, the other employee almost rolled his eyes, but caught himself and just said okay. And you know what? I thought it was so strange that he thought we should stop and just let him go ahead. They were fine waiting, and she and I even chatted a bit when the employee kind of stomped away. We had waited our turn as everyone has to, and it was no problem. You get in line when you get there regardless of what anyone else is doing, at least that's what I thought. My husband said the other employee was trying to go on lunch, and that may be why. But regardless, I thought it was super rude and incredibly entitled. Yeah, that's really weird to have some other employee at this big box store come up and be like, wait a second, you guys are in line, but let's ignore that line real quick. It makes me wonder if maybe he knew this person in line or something like that, and like he was trying to like pull some strings or something along those lines. I don't know. It just seems weird because you guys were almost done, and the person behind you was maybe like a minute away from getting this done. So for him to get all pissy about it just really doesn't make any sense to me. And in my opinion, he was completely out of line. I'm convinced that my girlfriend may be cheating on me because after I caught her with another man in their car for over 40 minutes, I'm now questioning everything about our relationship, leaving me wondering what I should do next. Here's what happened. To start things out, I was planning to see my girl after work. We share locations, so I usually check to see where she's at, but I noticed that she was at an address where the house number was 1040, whereas her current place is 1052. When I got there, her location showed that she was in someone's driveway, but I couldn't see her anywhere. I FaceTimed her twice, but she didn't pick up, and instead she texted me saying, can I call you later? So I stayed near the location for a bit, and after a minute or two, I saw her getting out of a car with tinted windows and the lights off. I then honked to let her know that I was there. She then came over and told me it was a guy from work, and they were just talking about business-related stuff, and apparently they'd been sitting in the car for over 40 minutes. I tried not to overreact, but honestly, I definitely felt something was off. I then asked her if that was the guy's driveway, and she said no. So I asked, well then why didn't he just park on the street and leave his lights on? She then told me it was to avoid making a U-turn and to save gas. For reference, we've been together for 7 months now, and I don't want to jump to conclusions or show insecurity, but something about this just doesn't feel right. And at this point, I'm starting to wonder if maybe she cheated on me. What should I do? Okay, I've got to be honest with you. Anybody going to somebody else's car for 40 minutes is having much more than just a business meeting. And also, why would they have business meetings in someone's tinted car on the side of the road? Not to mention the fact that this is probably what, just right down the street from where she lives? And sure, you don't want to jump to conclusions, but I know if I was in your shoes, I would be like, wait a second, what's going on here? It really looks like she's cheating on you, and that is not okay. It's also really weird that she had really convenient excuses for everything this guy was doing, from where he was parked to what they were doing. Like for me, her story's almost a little too straight, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, she has an answer for everything. But it's like, why would you have an answer for that? Why not just say something like, oh, I have no idea, this is just where he parked, or something like that? Because her response really makes me believe that she just made it up on the spot. She's lying to you, this is not actually what happened, because this guy would have no reason to have that kind of dialogue with this lady. What, did he pull up and say, oh, I'm parked here because I want to save gas gas and I don't want to have a U-turn. Hop in the car, let's have a business meeting. Like, no, that's not happening. This business-related meeting could have easily been a phone call at best. So yeah, it does seem like something really sketchy happened, but in my opinion, it would be incredibly foolish to make any kind of accusation here, especially without some kind of like hard-hitting evidence. Like, you really need to figure that out first before anything else, because I can see it now. I can see her freaking out and be like, oh my god, you think I'm cheating on you? And then this becomes even worse, because if she's not cheating on you, she will probably never let that go, because honestly, who would? Like, I don't want to be accused of cheating, especially if I haven't done it. But also, if she is cheating, she's probably just gonna pretend like, oh my god, you accused me of cheating, now I have an excuse to break up with you, which I guess still works in figuring out the truth, but it also leaves like a lot of question marks for you because you don't know if it's the truth. So personally, if I was in your shoes, I would work really hard to find any kind of evidence, some kind of concrete proof that yes, she is or isn't cheating on you, because jumping to a conclusion, even though the evidence really is kind of there in my opinion, will only cause you a lot of problems. My entitled coworker tries to get me in trouble, all because I have my phone out while on the job. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally ruining his weekend plans in quite possibly the most satisfying way possible. Here's what happened. Okay, so I used to work for an armored car company. Now this is something I did for a few years when I was in university and waiting for a position in what would be my future career. It was good money and lots of people did it as their full-time jobs, but I wanted more out of life than a mindless job. Because I was classified as part-time, I did not have a set shift. I mostly covered for people when they were sick, took vacation, worked unscheduled shifts, or worked shifts created specifically for part-timers. All in all, I was working full-time hours almost every week. Most of the full-timers loved working with me. The way the company worked is that you were set up for a 13-hour shift. However, if you managed to complete your run in less than that, you would still get paid the full shift. I was young, I moved fast, and I didn't care about breaks, even if it meant that I could get paid for 3 or 4 hours to sit at home instead of working. So whenever I took over for someone older who was just on autopilot, I could get their coworker home in a fraction of the time. Now, one of the full-time workers, a real Karen, who we will call Kyle for the sake of the story, was just the worst. For some reason, he took it upon himself to tattle on people for anything that he didn't like. If someone weren't wearing their collared shirt under their sweater, he would run and tell management. And as an FYI, working in the summer heat in a literal metal box, wearing a bulletproof vest makes you want to shed layers. Also, if someone was wearing black instead of blue pants, he would tell management. If someone was wearing a company hat that has the company logo but is not our official uniform, he would also tell management. So basically, no one in the company liked Kyle. Well, one week, Kyle's coworker was taking vacation, and my boss scheduled me to replace him. The run is pretty easy, it's a commercial day shift, so 90% of the stops are retail stores with less than a few $100 in cash. Because of the amount of money, no one has ever had a problem with one person jumping out and running in, grabbing the money and coming back, while the second person, usually the driver, stays with the truck. In this shift, I was the driver, so that's what I did. When Kyle was in the store, I would just navigate my phone, look at the people in the area, make sure there were no threats and that I wasn't parked in anyone's way, but mostly it was just wasting time. Well, on one stop, Kyle came back and I was just finishing up writing an email, and apparently Kyle wasn't too happy with me taking a few extra seconds to start going. And unbeknownst to me, he took a picture of me behind the wheel on my phone, and I had no idea until the next shift came around the next day, where management came to talk to me about my texting and driving. I then told them that I had no idea what they were talking about, but my manager said that they had proof I was doing it, and if I did it again, I would be written up. I went to talk to another coworker who is also the union representative to figure out what in the world is going on, and he told me that Kyle took a picture of me yesterday and complained that I was doing it. When I heard this, I was so pissed off, and it's here that I decided to get some petty revenge. My shifts with Kyle were for 3 days at 13-hour shifts, namely Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Well, today was now Thursday, our last shift of this run, and this shift was not retail pickups. It was the run that takes all of the money collected from the previous week and brings it to our provincial depot about 400 kilometers away. The entire run has only about 30 minutes of work and about 9 hours of driving. If you did the math, this is one of those runs where if you get it done quickly and if traffic is on your side, you can get paid for a lot of unworked time. It was also the last shift of the week, which meant a long, gorgeous weekend in the middle of summer as soon as we were done. But with that in mind, I was going to make sure that this shift lasted as long as possible. If he didn't want me to break any rules, then I would make sure that I happily obliged. I drove exactly the speed limit the entire way. I even stopped for a 1-hour lunch break, which is given to us, but I had not witnessed anyone take it in the years I'd been here because of the rules that we had about pay. In fact, we were so behind, we reached the major city our depot was located in, literally right at rush hour, which is something our early start time was designed to prevent. All in all, what should have taken about 9 hours to do ended up taking 14 hours, an extra 5 hours where he just had to sit there and watch me in silence. To make things sweeter, a few times during the shift, he even had to call his wife and let her know that he wouldn't be home early enough to go to the cottage and that they would have to leave the next day instead. I heard from other coworkers how furious he was and how I had ruined his plans for the weekend. But you know what? All I could do was smile because this guy was a jerk and he absolutely deserved it. Oh, I love this story so much because I hate working with people like Kyle. They nitpick everything you do, they're always trying to get you in trouble, and at the drop of a hat, they would betray your trust immediately. Seriously, like anybody who has ever worked a job would see your coworker on their phone and not think anything of it. But with people like Kyle, and trust me, there's a lot of them, they just can't stand the fact that someone else is not doing exactly what they feel they need to do. And instead of just leaving them alone, they make it their personal goal to get them in trouble. So truly, I love the way that you got this revenge, because this guy absolutely had it coming. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My fiance and I moved to a certain race-dominated town, and now he's acting odd, almost as if he's ashamed that I'm black. And at this point, I'm kind of convinced that he might be cheating on me, and I'm left wondering what happened and what I should be doing. Here's what happened. Okay, so my fiance and I moved here 3 weeks ago for his new job, and I am so proud of him for this. I helped him during the interview process. I shaved his beard, I lined it up, I gave him certain things I used when I worked in an office, I picked out his clothing, etc. And we were excited about the opportunity. Although I'd been 2 hours from my family and friends, we thought it would be a great start. Plus, the pay is amazing. Obviously, my mother had some issues with it, but still wished us the best. Meanwhile, my son's father went insane, but I said I would gladly meet him somewhere closer for pickup and drop-offs, and for reference, I have sole custody, so I double-checked and I was allowed to change schools and move our son. He had notice of it, but only got mad when I turned down his proposal to date again. He thought my fiance getting a new job far away somehow meant that I would go back to him. You know, his cheating, narcissistic self. Now, here's where the real issue comes into play. I'm Black Caribbean and my fiance is white Canadian, and this new city is primarily white. I've gotten way more stares here in the last 3 weeks than I have my entire life. For example, I was driving to pick up my son from school, and this lady almost crashed her car, breaking her neck staring at me. This other gentleman in his car beside me at a red light, again, kept staring at me. Just today, I had an older man I saw sitting on his porch leave his porch to walk 4 houses down where I parked my car, just to walk next to my car and peep inside. Whether my fiance wants to admit it or not, I'm being stared at like I'm some kind of new species of human. I started to notice when my fiance and I go grocery shopping, where he would say, let's separate and meet up when it's time to pay. And I thought this was odd, but I just kind of let it go. But you know what? The same thing keeps happening no matter where we go. He would say for us to separate. This also happened again at an antique store, and we would be getting lots of looks and he would literally just disappear. Like I did not even know how long he was gone while I was literally talking to myself before I turned around to see him gone. He claimed he told me he was going to the washroom, but he definitely did not. I know his job is very important in this town, and he did mention everyone at his job is all Caucasians. Not a single one of them are any other race. So now I have this gut feeling that he does not want them to know that I'm black, because he's afraid that they'll think of him differently, and that might be why when we're out that he wants to be apart. I brought this up to him, and he said he just felt that he was being too clingy lately, but yet yesterday we visited old friends and he was all over me like he usually is. I feel like this is a grounds for a breakup because clearly he's uncomfortable about being seen with me in public, which makes me extremely self-conscious and just really sad. I feel pretty much even more alone. What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster has an update to their situation. Here's what they had to say. Okay, I'm gonna try and make this short. I spoke to him again about how I'm feeling, and he kind of just brushed it off. Then I said that it's best that my son and I leave so that he won't have to worry about being embarrassed by us. He then came home from work and started apologizing and crying, saying that he can see why I thought that, but it was far from the truth. He said he was just stressed with work and wasn't thinking. He promised that he'll take me out this weekend and treat me like he always does. Now, I wanted to believe him, but something was off. He left and came back home after work with some flowers and wine, but then immediately started an argument and shouted. And you know what? Here's what I just realized last night. Last week, we went to the gym and he wanted to schedule the trainer for yesterday at 6:00 p.m., which I thought was odd since that's our usual dinner time, but I just thought to myself, whatever, it's just one missed dinner. But then I told him my trainer emailed me and wanted to combine our training and that he'll he'll email me to let me know how my fiance's training went. Well, when I told my fiance this, he immediately said, maybe it's best he reschedule for Saturday so we can all just meet. Now, last night, he weirdly started the argument at 5:54 p.m. and he claimed he needed to go to the gym to calm down. But literally, he put on his favorite shirt, his favorite date shoes, and his fancy watch. He then stormed out of the door and just left. He then started messaging me and I said I thought it was odd that he got dressed up to go to the gym. Well, within 5 minutes, he came back saying he was just going to go to the pub close by and started talking normally, expressing how much he loves me. Thinking back, I did notice when it was dinner time on the weekdays, he wouldn't finish his dinner or said he wasn't hungry, but on weekends, he can eat 3 meals a day. He went from saying how excited he was for me to visit his work to saying that it'll be best if I come home when he's more set up. I also noticed that he would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning rather than at 8 o'clock in the morning on weekdays. I thought maybe he was just stressed out, but last night, the fact that he started an argument dressed up and left around the exact same time he scheduled his gym training, to me just seems a bit fishy. I'm starting to believe that maybe he's having an affair and somehow he's embarrassed for her to find out that I'm black. Everyone at his work knows that he's engaged, and the man who gave him his position is his friend of 20 years. So I don't think he's hiding he's in a relationship at work. But right now, I honestly don't even know. Can someone cheat with someone in just 3 weeks? Because right now, I seriously feel like I'm losing everything. Oh man, first off, I just want to say this is so messed up because you do not deserve this. You literally moved there to try and make sure that your fiance had a good place to work, and you gave him so much of your time and energy to try and be a supportive partner and be there for him. So the fact that he's now seemingly turning his back on you, in my opinion, is so awful. That really hurts, and I'm so sorry that happened. Like, you just don't deserve that in the slightest. Because you are 100% correct. It really seems like he's embarrassed to be around you, and that is not fair for you at all. So overall, I hope this works out in some way in your favor, because from the sounds of it, it kind of seems like he might be cheating. And that, in my opinion, is not okay. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories. My friends wouldn't give me a definitive answer about my birthday party, so I decided to cancel it, as I didn't want to embarrass myself with no one showing up. But now it's making me question if I'm the jerk in this situation, or if I was correct for canceling. Here's what happened. Okay, so my birthday was a couple of weeks ago, and I decided to throw 2 parties since I have 2 groups of friends who don't really mix that well. I had one party with friend group A on the weekend of my birthday, and planned one for the week after with friend group B. When I messaged friend group A, asking if people were free, they all replied within a couple of days, saying that they could come and how excited they were. However, when I asked group B about 3 weeks in advance of the party, most people took a week to reply, with me chasing them about it. And even after that, the majority replied by saying, I can probably come, and no one would actually give me a straight answer. Now, as a side note, I've had some problems with this group of friends leaving me out quite a few times before, whether that's going to parties, going to the movies, or going shopping, etc. And this is all without asking if I would come along first. And this is despite the fact that I spend most of my time with this group. Even when it was 3 days until the party, when I asked people in person, everyone still just said, well, probably I might show up. So because of that, I just ended up canceling the party because I was worried that people might not turn up on the day and just come up with some lame excuse by saying like, oh, I felt sick or something like that. I didn't want to risk the embarrassment of anyone finding out that no one came on that day, but I don't know if I'm just overreacting. So please, can anyone tell me if this is normal? Or is it as odd as I think it is that they wouldn't give me a definitive answer? What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, anytime someone gives a soft answer like that, where they're like, oh, I might be there, I probably will be there, that in my opinion means they're not doing it, and that really is the answer that you need to take. It's also worth noting that in my opinion, friend group B really does not sound like your friends. Maybe it sounds like people that you want to be friends with, so you spend a lot of time with them, but as someone who's been in that situation, I can guarantee you that friend group A is probably way better. Because guess what? At least they're showing up to your birthday party. They're willing to be there for your party instead of friend group B who's like, oh, maybe I'll show up. I don't know. It depends. Like, that's lame. If someone has a friend that's having a party, you want to be there, especially for their birthday. Like, come on. So no, you're not the jerk for canceling it because in my opinion, it doesn't sound like anyone from that other group was going to show up. And I completely agree. That would have been devastating and humiliating if nobody showed up. An entitled elderly couple literally just walk around my restaurant trying to choose seats that they want to go to instead of going to the ones that we're trying to assign them, as they made my life a living nightmare. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened last night during a day where I was working a host shift instead of server or expo. You know, you will always get those people that are really picky about their seats, like extremely picky, and they will refuse anything else. I don't get it personally all the time, but that's because I'll sit you just about anywhere. Though I do understand about joint issues, as I've experienced joint problems since I was about 16 years old, so it's not always comfortable depending on where you sit. However, this was just because they were being really picky about their seats. There was no other reason. It starts with an elderly couple. We were busy, the dining room was full, and the high tops in the bar area are filled up thanks to two 12 tops taking up an entire row, and regular diners taking up the other row, and the bar itself was also full. In the dining room, we have 7 booths and 5 tables, and 2 of those tables fit 6 tops. With both areas full, me and the other host were worried about telling this couple it could be a wait, since we didn't have any extra chairs available for them to sit and wait because of the large parties using the extra chairs. Well, in a stroke of luck, an 8 top in the dining room got up and freed up a table. Specifically, the 6 top table was made to fit 8 by separating a 2 top table from another, which usually is kept together to fit 4, meaning that this was the first available place for them to sit at. I go to take them over to the table while the busser finished cleaning the separated piece off, and the other host helped him put the table back together. The wife then looks at the table and says, "No, I don't like this one. I want a different one. It is too small." I think to myself that maybe it's because the tables had not been put back together just yet that she thought it would be a tiny table for them to work with. So I politely said to her, "Oh, no, we're actually putting these tables back together so you'll have plenty of room. Don't worry." She then shakes her head and says, "No, I don't like it. We want something else." So I think to myself, yikes, we don't have anything else. I then asked them to wait there just for a moment while I check to see on the other tablet at the host stand if anyone might be checked out and leaving soon. Well, the moment I walked away, the other host hurries over and tells me that they found a seat. Now, where, you might be asking? Well, they picked the 6 top table at the back that just opened as well. The host that told me this, by the way, is new, so she figured it was fine, but I calmly let her know that this isn't alright because we aren't allowed to sit any parties less than 5 at the 6 top tables. Well, now she's worried, anxious about having to break the news to them, but I tell her it's fine, I will handle it. And instead, she just had to check any booths that might be opening up. So I walk over and I go see the couple. The husband has already made himself comfortable, and the wife is sitting too. I then politely tell them, "Hey, I'm sorry, but only parties of 5 or more can sit here. We can't have you sit here, but we will find you a table soon." The husband has said nothing this entire time, but the wife looks at me with annoyance and says, "But we're sat here. We want this table." Now, instead of arguing, I do the best move I can while being polite and keep the customer service going. So I just repeat myself, which is my way of saying, "Okay, cool, that doesn't change anything and I'm not budging, so I'm sorry, but you gotta move." And while they are now in a huff, they reluctantly get up. As I try to tell them that a booth is getting up, they walk right past me and straight to the bar area. I try to follow after them, and I think that they're gonna sit at the tiny 2 top round tables we have, but no, they took one look at them, shook their heads, and just kept moving. They made the effort of squeezing through the 2 12 tops that took up a whole row, which were both birthday parties full of drunk and excited people that don't realize that chairs are for sitting, not for standing around while they crowd the entire walkway. The husband then heads to the very last high top, which has been pushed in position to join the rest of the tables for that party. It was just empty at the moment except for a kids menu because they had a few kids with them. The kids were just not there that second because they went to mess around with a golf arcade game. The husband then just stares at the party, which was multiple people telling him he can't sit there and that they have that table and that the people are in fact using that table. But he just stares at them and says nothing, and instead the wife joins him and settles her stuff down. I then come over and I tell them that they can't sit there and that the party has that table and that a booth did just get up that we were trying to sit them at. The husband finally speaks irate and says to me, "Well, why did you say that?" And it's like, yeah, well, okay, I tried to, but sure, it's my fault, right? They got their booth, but they sat down before it could be wiped off. The busser is then forced to wipe it off with them sitting there, trying not to accidentally spray them while he does it. The cleaning spray diluted with a ton of water doesn't do that much, and it just makes your tongue numb if you digest it a little. But of course, you still don't want to get it on anyone. He finishes wiping it off and it will dry fast. But the wife insists the other host take a table napkin and dry it for them. The host tries and it doesn't work, and now they're in a huff about it again. But like, why did you even sit down when you saw the busser was still cleaning the table? If you waited the 1 minute more, the table would have already been dry. I asked them to wait for him to finish cleaning, but they ignored me and sat anyways. This all happened in the span of 7 minutes, and it honestly just felt so weird to me that someone would act so entitled. Oh man, I've worked in customer service like this, specifically in the restaurant industry, and people who act like this drive me insane. They walk around the restaurant like they own the place. They're trying to pick up tables that don't belong to them, even if it means they're disrupting other people. And that is so obnoxious because, of course, just like in this story, they're gonna turn it against you and be like, "Oh, this is your fault for not saying something." And it's like, dude, I tried to talk to you. I literally don't know what else to tell you. I said you shouldn't sit there and you just did didn't listen. But somehow, sure, it's my fault, I guess. So yes, I completely understand where the original poster is coming from, because that is incredibly annoying. Am I overreacting for not giving my parents over $2,000 out of my student loan refund just so they can pay their taxes? Because right now they're really pissed off at me, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I got into a huge argument with my parents yesterday. For context, I'm a broke college freshman living 5 hours away from home, and they texted me asking for a favor, which was really odd. When we got on a call, my mom said they needed $2,500 by tomorrow just so they could pay their taxes. And mind you, the tomorrow they're referring to would be tax day. They wanted me to give them part of my student loan refund, which I'm saving for next year's apartment and living expenses. I didn't say no immediately. I told them I needed to shower, and then I called my brother of 2 years for advice. He told me to ask reasonable questions, how they would pay me back, and why they couldn't ask someone else, etc. So I called my parents back and I asked them, can I ask a few questions? When I said this, my mom let out a sigh but said yes. When I asked about repayment, as I need the full amount back before I move in 4 months, they literally exploded on me. They accused me of not trusting them and made me feel guilty, even though I just wanted to protect myself. They eventually told me that they could pay half next week, then a few hundred for 6 months. But that still wouldn't give me the money back in time. I said I wanted to help, but I couldn't risk not having money for housing. Then my dad brought up how I didn't pay for car insurance in high school. I reminded him that I made a $150 paycheck while they expected me to pay $400 a month, which I clearly could not afford. They eventually agreed I just pay for gas, and I said it wasn't fair to use that against me now. Well, that's when my dad snapped at me, he swore at me repeatedly, and then my mom hung up on me. This happened 15 minutes ago, and honestly, I'm still shaken up. I know I'm not talking to them again until I get an apology, but at this point, I really need some advice because I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, the way they're acting is so immature, like seriously. There's no reason to freak out and swear at you, especially when you did nothing wrong. You literally are just trying to find answers to whether or not they're gonna pay you back, which by the way, I guarantee you they will never pay you back. They're gonna sit on this and be like, oh, you'll just give us the money, right? And then they'll get the money and be like, oh, what money? We don't owe you anything. So no, I don't think you're overreacting because truly, I don't think you would ever get this money back, even if you hounded them for the rest of your life. An entitled Karen blatantly tries to cut in line while we're waiting in line at an amusement park to go on a ride. But instead of letting this go, I decide to get petty by humiliating this woman in a way that she will truly never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so here we are waiting on this really long line for an amusement park ride when suddenly this woman sneakily cuts in line. Now first, I thought that she was with her family and she was just gone briefly to fetch some water or something like that while the rest of her party was in line, but it also just didn't look like it. She was seemingly glued to her phone, and she was pushing others every now and then just to get in front of a few kids at a time. And yeah, there were a lot of kids in the line. On top of that, she didn't look like she was looking for someone who might be in line. While she was trying to pass me, I told her, "Miss, the line starts over there." Well, she pretended not to hear me and just kept moving and cut in front of me. And then I tapped her on the shoulder and I said the same thing again quietly. Well, she just stared at me and stood there. She then stopped trying to get to the front, but also did nothing to move to the back. So I tapped her on the shoulder once again and I said the exact same thing, this time loud enough for others to hear. She then huffed and puffed and started moving back, and while she was at it, she accidentally elbowed me. Now, I am a taller woman, so her elbow hit my hip, which by the way, it did hurt, which in turn just got me angry at the audacity of this lady. So I stared at her, expecting an apology, but she said nothing for a good 10 seconds while I just kept staring at her, and then she finally said in a barely audible whisper, "I'm sorry." After that, she kept standing directly behind me. But it's like, no, that's not where you're supposed to stand. She is supposed to stand all the way in the back behind the group of kids behind me. There are about 30 kids there who I wouldn't expect to stand up for themselves at all. So this is when I decided to get loud as I stare at her and I tell her, "Go to the back behind the kids." Well, as you can imagine, she hated that, but at this point, I was loud enough to be socially intimidating and probably also physically intimidating as she is half my size. So she moved behind the kids. I got on the ride with most of the kids while she was waiting in the back with a few of the remaining kids and whoever queued up behind her. And now my hip hurts just a little bit whenever I touch it. Not a lot, but a bruise easily, and I'm just mad at the persistent awful attitude at this point. The ride ends where it starts, and when we are done, the rest of them are getting on. Now, where the upcoming riders are expected to store their possessions is also the side that we ourselves stored our possessions. So she comes over to our side to put her things exactly where we are to pick up our things. It is crowded and unorderly due to the excitement and general chaotic nature of the kids. And you know what? That's where the pettiness got the best of me, and I took advantage of the crowd. I then take a step and I trip her inconspicuously. She then tripped and hit her face on the open lid of the metal lockers and bounced off that to fall on the ground. ground. And in the process, a few kids stepped on her hands. But you know what? I walked out beside her while she was down, and honestly, that was incredibly fun. Okay, I love this story so much because you know what? That lady started it. You know for a fact she elbowed you in the hip on purpose, and you know she did that because you called her out. First of all, who does that? Seriously, who's gonna walk up to the front of a line and be like, oh, it's me, I'm going next, instead of, oh, I don't know, getting in the back of the line and being a normal human being? Like seriously, you've gotta have a lot of guts to pull that off and feel okay about that. Especially when there's a crowd of people. Like seriously, get a grip. It's incredibly unfair to all the children in line who are going on this ride as well. The least you can do is stand behind them in line with everyone else. But no, this lady had to swim to the front until you said something. And trust me, if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. Most rides at some kind of park nowadays are like an hour plus long, if not longer than that. So it's like, no, I'm not gonna wait in this line forever just for you to cut in front of me. Go to the back like a normal human being and wait your turn. So truly, good for you for getting back at this lady, because I'm sure that hurt, but also it was probably horribly embarrassing, which in my opinion is the thing that she absolutely deserved the most. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My coworkers bully me in ways that I honestly never expected, as I truly feel alone in this job, leaving me wondering what I should do next. Here's what happened. Okay, so all day long, service has been flowing well, but every time the manager leaves and lets me lead the front of house, the servers try to create an issue out of thin air just to prove that I shouldn't be in charge. If I'm running a 20-person wait list and every table is sat properly, including reservations of 10 plus people with sections semi-evenly spread out, they still routinely yell and humiliate me in front of customers, and they nitpick random things. I'm talking the stupidest things like, oh, the reservation was set too early, when it's what, 6 o'clock at night, and a group of 10s come in at 7. So I'm in the middle of a busy night, and as I'm dealing with a customer, one of the horse-faced bullies shouts out and says, "Table needs a menu." Now this is a table that sat themselves while I was doing takeout, but as I go up to the table, I realize that it's two guys who work here. I then go up to her and I try to explain they work here, even with some kind of humor about it, where I was like, oh, they actually work here and they just sat themselves. But she still seems snappy about it, by saying stuff like, so what? Why should I have to give them menus? That is your job. At this point, I get annoyed because they literally work here. I point to the menus in every section, so servers can always replenish menus when it's busy and if tables need extra, which she absolutely knows about. I then said that there's plenty of menus everywhere, and you can talk to me normally and you don't have to yell. Then she escalates things by saying, oh yeah, well where's the menu, huh? Where is the menu? And she's saying this in a way that's taunting me, like I'm some dumb servant that answers to her. And to be completely honest, I went off. I called her crazy. I said she can talk to me normally, and I told her I don't know what kind of mental issues you have, but you need to stay away from me. Now the whole kitchen heard me say that she has mental issues, and other customers and chefs heard me call her crazy and to stay away from me. Then exactly how she body checks me, I body checked her. She then let out a gasp, but it's like, why did you hit me when it was a shoulder check? As if I haven't been a punching bag for menus, pens, shoulder checks, and checkbooks my entire time working here. All the servers were giddy that I finally cracked, and their ringleader testified that I hit her. She kept muttering, I'm involving the boss now that I have proof. But I would just be like, oh, I'm shaking in my boots. Long story short, the servers all have a weird clique, despite all of them being 30 married mothers, and they've all been having a ball bullying me since I was hired, barking orders at me, body checking me, coming up physically close to me, and I'm talking in ways right up behind me and muttering move in my ear, and overall being nasty, comparable only to middle school girls. One morning I came into work, and they decided it was servers slammed their salads against the host day. And mind you, this is 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not new nor am I bad. I've been doing this for like 5 months now. My rotations are even, but they fly off the handle and run to the manager over little things like this since I've started. That's weekends, holidays, nights where I've made things flow well, and managed waitlists, reservations, and lines. I have more than proven myself, and yet it's like I still have to prove myself. Or there is still little tests and nitpicks, and honestly, I'm over it. I have ignored, smiled, or otherwise kept the manager out of it, but at this point, I really am over it. The manager texted me to not come, and my schedule is being changed. He knows they unreasonably bark at me and are weirdly uncooperative, but now he knows the full extent. I kept my mouth shut because I know it's easier to replace one host instead of 7 servers, but honestly, I don't regret it. I will not be talked to like some kind of servant, or be talked down to or mistreated by anyone, regardless of anything I do. And I'm glad I left with my self-respect. I'm an educated, intelligent, hard-working woman, and I will never be talked to like a servant ever again. Okay, dude, I really want to start off by saying I hope you quit that job and found something else. These people are morons. There is no reason for you to be talking talk to like that. The fact that anybody is body checking you like that first and foremost is completely unacceptable. No one should be physically hitting you in any workplace. That's not okay. It doesn't matter what the context is. You don't do that, and that's not allowed. And on that note, I think you acted in self-defense. These people seriously think they can knock you around like that? Like, no, you have a right to physical safety. Also, where is the owner and the manager in all of this? You mean to tell me this has been going on for 5 months and they're not even seeing any of that? They really don't see how toxic these other servers are acting towards the original poster? Like, that's insane in my opinion. That's the mark of someone who's not paying attention, or it's a leader who literally just doesn't care. They don't care that something's going wrong and it's all just completely overlooked. And I do have to disagree with one thing the original poster said. You do not have to keep your mouth shut just to keep the group happy. I would rather see all 7 of those people replaced, and yes, it absolutely is possible, than you having to deal with their garbage on a daily basis. Because that sounds like the real nightmare. Seriously, they could replace you tomorrow, and then guess what? The same issues will happen with a new host. So seriously, I think the fact that you said something is honestly the best thing you could have done. And sure, you could have done it a few months sooner, but like, it's neither here nor there. But overall, I really hope you find a better job than this, because these people seriously sound like the absolute worst. My boyfriend hides his massive income from his family, and it's hurting their view of me. And now I'm trying to convince my boyfriend to explain how he's so rich to them, because right now I'm honestly feeling so hurt and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend made a lot of money on meme stocks during the pandemic, and as a result has the financial freedom to do things he is passionate about rather than things he has to do. He is finishing up a theology PhD and having the time of his life. We've traveled together to places all over Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. He also coaches high school basketball during the season, which he loves. His parents think he is wasting his time not going to law or medical school. He is going to a very big name university on the East Coast, so they give him a pass on that. But they think he coaches basketball because of me, as I played in college. But he has been a fan since he was a kid, and they know that. They see my Instagram of our travel pictures and some of the gifts he's gotten me, and they think I'm bleeding a grad student on a PhD stipend dry, when in reality his dividends alone are 6 figures. His sisters send him care packages with food because they think he will starve to death spending all of his money on me. I've asked him to tell his family that it's not true and that he is well enough off, but he says that it will just cause more problems because his extended family has fought over money before. I really want a good relationship with his family because I see us going the distance, but he says that they will love me if he loves me, and I'm not seeing it yet. How do I get him to see that I actually care about what they think of me and that they see me as a bad influence and a gold digger of a PhD student? What should I do? Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. If you say anything about his income to the family, you are absolutely gonna be the problem in this scenario because your boyfriend is 100% correct. Sharing that kind of income with anybody is a bad idea. Like seriously, that is the best decision in this situation. He is under no obligation to share anything with anybody. He lives a private life doing whatever he likes, and the only way he can maintain that privacy is literally by keeping a lid on the fact that he is loaded. I mean, this guy's dividend checks are like, what, 6 figures alone? That is some serious money. And despite the fact that you're traveling the world and you guys are happy together, for some reason, and I cannot understand why, you care what other people think. And it makes me wonder, like, seriously, what is the problem here? You mean to tell me you guys have a good relationship? You want to stick it out and see it through to the end? And he's loaded? Like, what are you talking about? Oh, and the only stipulation is that you keep his finances private, which is something I think anybody would want to do in their, like, personal situation. Like, my God, this is such an easy home run. Literally, all you have to do is just keep his finances private, and you are going to be set for life. Because let's say that he does say, oh yeah, guys, I'm loaded. Based on the fact that his family has fought over money before, you better believe your entire life will become so much different. And if you think they didn't like you before, trust me, they're gonna hate you even more now. Every accusation you think they're throwing your way, which by the way, it doesn't sound like any of that's credible, it's all just assumptions and no one's actually said that to you, all of that is gonna be legitimate in their eyes, and it's literally only gonna cause you more problems. Like, I understand that you feel insecure about his family, but guess what? Time will fix that. If you just stick it out and say nothing, all of this will blow over eventually. By saying something to the family or making him say something, you're only making things more complicated. You're not gonna get that level of acceptance by doing this. This is not the answer. So yeah, telling the family about this would be a huge mistake, and I hope you're not dumb enough to say anything on your end, because this absolutely is completely private and no one should ever have to know about this. My idiotic boss decided, as I was quitting his job, decided to mess with my tax information, forcing me to get revenge in a way he truly was never expecting. Here's what happened. A few years back, I worked for a sales company that had an extremely tight-fisted owner, and after we had a disagreement over poor sales, he withheld my wages. So I organized another job and then I quit. Previously, I had found out that if if you left him because of disagreement, he would withhold your tax certificate until it was past the last day of the year to lodge your tax return, and then the certificate showed your net wages as your gross wages with your tax unpaid. He also never gave pay slips, so you had no direct evidence. And how in the world people let him get away with that honestly beats me. The end of the financial year comes around and I wasn't worried. 1 week before the last day to lodge returns, I sent in a return where I had calculated the max tax withholdings as part of my wages. With this, I provided copies of my bank statements for the year as proof of payments and a letter claiming that my ex-boss had refused to provide a tax certificate. I knew he had a bad history with the tax office, but I didn't know that he had a red-flagged account. I mailed my return on Tuesday afternoon, and on Thursday I received a fully paid tax receipt and a refund check for the excess tax that I had theoretically paid, meaning that this was a very fast turnaround. Well, a team of inspectors and auditors raided his business that same Thursday. His business closed for a couple of months and then reopened at a smaller location with only family as staff. And before this, he had turned over millions annually. But in my opinion, this guy messed around and he found out. And trust me, I feel really good about putting him in his place. Okay, any employer that messes with somebody's taxes, in my opinion, is a complete idiot. That is asking to have problems. Like, seriously, that is messed up. So good for you for putting this guy in his place, because truly, he absolutely deserved it. I said no to my husband just one time, and now I'm blocked on literally everything, as he is no longer talking to me and giving me the silent treatment, all because I said no to making him a bowl of ice cream. And now I'm left scratching my head wondering what I should do next. Here's what happened. Okay, so after a long day where I cooked dinner, baked cookies, and literally did everything, I finally went to lay down and relax. A little later, I came back into the kitchen, and my husband asked if I would mind making him a bowl of ice cream. I said no, I'm doing something else right now, and he immediately gets irritated and says, fine, whatever, go do whatever else you have going on. Now, I could tell it bothered him, so I said, I'll make it, it's fine, trying to smooth things over. Then he says, if you make it, I'm not eating it. At that point, he puts on his headphones and starts ignoring me. I then try to get his attention, but he still just keeps ignoring me. Eventually, he tells me to leave and go do whatever I want. So I go to the room and then I come back out and I say, I'm free now. And he responds by saying he doesn't want to do anything with me and then just tells me to leave. I say he's being mean and he denies it and starts ignoring me again. Then he gets up and abruptly goes to the bathroom. I then end up crying a bit in the room because I've been on the go all day, doing everything. And the one time I say no, this is how he acts. This is a manipulative tactic that he uses all the time. I messaged him and he ignored me. I called him and he ignored that too. I could literally hear the phone ringing and him not answering. Then he blocks me on WhatsApp. I checked his profile and it's just blank now. So I know I'm blocked. So seriously, how do you approach a situation where your partner repeatedly responds with silence, anger, or blocking when you try to set a small boundary? What should I do? Okay, honestly, your husband sounds incredibly immature, and you are 100% right. This guy is being super manipulative for like no reason. He's treating you like garbage, he's giving you the silent treatment, which in my opinion is so frustrating, and he's acting like a spoiled brat. And I don't care who this is, like you really do not deserve that kind of treatment. So yeah, your husband is 100% at fault, and if anyone needs to change in this situation, it's him. Because what you said is not that big of a deal, and it did not warrant this level of overreaction. Am I the jerk for borrowing from my brother's inheritance just so I could start up my own business, even though that money was supposed to be used for his care? Because right now I'm honestly feeling really guilty, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my parents passed away a few years back, leaving money split between me and my brother, who we will call Mark. Mark has significant physical disabilities and needs ongoing care, special equipment, the works. It wasn't written down maybe, but everyone knew that his share was for his long-term care, and my share was just mine. Well, I had this business idea I was passionate about. It was a solid plan, it looked really good on paper, but starting costs were steep. My share wasn't quite enough to launch it properly, and I needed more capital. So I dipped into Mark's fund. Not all of it, not even half. I told myself it was an investment, a loan. If the business took off, I'd pay it back with interest. Mark's future would be more than secure. That was the plan. I mentioned something vague to my aunt, who helps Mark's day-to-day activities, about moving funds for an investment that would benefit Mark long-term. And maybe I wasn't totally clear about the source. Things were hazy. It was stressful. She didn't really push back then and just seemed distracted. Well, the business hasn't worked out like I thought. Supplier problems, markets changed, and it's just some bad luck. It's not totally failed, but it's struggling and it's losing money. And now Mark urgently needs a new piece of equipment. And we're talking life-changing, important kind of urgent. And the money I borrowed, well, it's just stuck, tied up in the business. I can't just pull it out without destroying the whole thing, which seems pointless now. My aunt found out exactly how much was gone and where it went, and she absolutely lost it, screaming that I stole from my disabled brother and put his future at risk. And Mark now knows that too. He doesn't get the business stuff, but he knows the money for his new chair isn't there. And now he just looks crushed. It feels awful, it really does. He just kept stirring his coffee while my aunt yelled. He wouldn't even look at me. And now the family is furious, talking about lawyers to try and get assets from the business. Now, my defense, which no one is hearing, is that my intention was good. I wasn't trying to screw him over. I was trying to build something for the both of us. It was a calculated risk, and they just don't always pay off right away. If it had worked, I'd be praised right now. It just feels so unfair. Liquidating now destroys everything, including the chance to ever pay it back. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Oh my god, this is probably the most selfish thing I've ever heard. Seriously, out of anything I've ever read on this channel, this might take the cake. You mean to tell me that you stole money, and yes, you stole money from your disabled brother so that you could start a failing business, and now that your business is failing, and he needs that money that you stole from him for like something that will save his life, you're seriously gonna come up with excuses and be like, but I meant well with this. My intentions were good. It's like, my man, are you kidding me right now? This is insane behavior. You stole money from your brother, you didn't loan it from him, you gambled it on a business which, by the way, clearly wasn't as solid as you thought it was, and now you're hesitant to give the money back, even though your brother needs it for like life-changing reasons, and you're wondering if you're the jerk? Like, my god, yeah, you're absolutely a jerk. You're a terrible person if you don't make this right. And by the way, the defense that you came up with of like, oh, my intention was good, no, that's not a good defense. That is not a defense at all. If anything, it shows how selfish you truly were. You weren't doing this on behalf of Mark. You say it yourself in the beginning. You started this business because you were passionate about it, but you didn't have enough money. So instead of going through any other avenue you could possibly think of, you say, oh, I'll just take some of my brother's money. You know, my disabled brother who needs the money. I'll pay it back with interest, no problem. Don't worry about that. Like, dude, this is crazy behavior, and I seriously cannot believe that you would do something like that. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, and I can only speak for myself, I would be doing everything to take care of my brother who clearly needs the money. And if that means liquidating a failing business, then guess what? That's what I gotta do. Because what you did to begin all of this is completely unacceptable. And if you actually cared about your brother even in the slightest, then you would do what it takes to make sure that he gets that money. An entitled jerk of a neighbor screams at me and my dog and nearly hits us with his car after he screams at me that he doesn't want my dog on his property. But despite the fact that I was nowhere near his house, I decided to get some petty revenge by sending him a package of dog poop on his birthday. Here's what happened. To start things off, I live in an upper middle class neighborhood that is pretty vast. There are 75 or so homes built between the 70s and 90s. There is no homeowners association, but they do have a neighborhood association and a crime watch organization, but neither of which I'm a part of. We purchased the home in 2021, and everybody we've met has been really friendly for the most part. My children are teenagers, so we haven't explored much of our neighborhood. We often see other people that I assume live elsewhere park in front of my home or near it to walk our neighborhood as well. A couple years ago, we adopted a puppy, and I checked out the distance of the bordering streets of our neighborhood, and I found it was about 3 miles. So walking the outer edges of the neighborhood became my normal dog walking route. A few weeks ago, our local park was closed for renovations, so I began exploring all the connecting streets inside my neighborhood to give him new things to see and smell. And this, of course, gave me the opportunity to meet my new neighbors. I have in earbuds on walks, so it's mostly simple pleasantries and sometimes a quick conversation, and it's been largely lovely until a couple of days ago. While we're walking about in this new street that we've not been on before, as there isn't much traffic throughout it, I notice a 60-year-old man in his yard by his garage. I gave him a courtesy smile and a wave, but I noticed he was speaking to me. Taking my earbuds out, I walked towards his yard, and I asked him, what was that? And he replied by saying, keep your dog off my grass. I was a little shocked by his rudeness and tone, so I replied with a sort of giggle, and I said, well, he wasn't near your grass, but okay. I'm shaking my head, walking away, and louder now, he says to me, I do not give a crap. It's my grass, and I don't want that effing thing on it. I was almost too stunned to speak, but I managed to say, well, I don't want strange bloated men barking orders at me, so when he does go to the bathroom on your yard, you can say something. Until then, you can go F yourself. I'm now walking fast, calling my husband, completely enraged. I was literally carrying a bag of poop in my hand because I'm not a jerk, and I pick up after my dog. I'm about 2 streets over when I see a black Suburban creeping past a stop sign, and of course, it's the guy who was yelling at me. I mean, I recognized it from his driveway. He is speeding up to me, and I think he's gonna try and run me or my dog over. We hop into someone's yard off the curb, and he speeds by and yells, F you, you stupid bee, while giving me his fat red finger out the window. Now, at this point, I am smoking with anger. My dog is confused, but this jerk just let me know that no one is home at his house. So I circled back and I opened my steaming bag in the center of his driveway, being careful to gauge where his tire would hit. And this was a lot, about 4 turds in total. But you know what? It simply wasn't enough because I was still incredibly angry. So I go home to look up his address. I find his name, his social media accounts, everything. And I find out right then and there that his birthday is in 2 days. I then smile because I know I'll have a special present just for him. I then called my most unhinged friend that happens to have 2 dogs, and she says she's happy to collect samples for me. At home, I do the same, and in 2 days' time, I have a right pile of dog crap of 3 dogs waiting for this guy. I then purchase a manila envelope, grab some Easter crinkle confetti paper, and some gloves to get working on his birthday present. And trust me, I'm sure to grab the envelopes with bubble wrap on the inside. I address it to him and I write happy birthday in large letters underneath, stuff it with all the dog crap I can find, and fill it just to the top with enough crinkle paper that it's hard to see exactly what's inside. I then walk it alone to his home on his birthday, and I put it in his paper box very early. Then I come back at mail time, and I wait on the nearest cross street hidden from view. Well, from my hiding spot, I see him come out directly after the mail truck, where he then grabs my manila envelope. And at this point, I think to myself, yes, I can taste the revenge on my tongue. I'm about to walk the opposite direction home, but it's then that I see him opening up the envelope. So I literally get a front row seat to all of this, and I think to myself, oh man, this is beautiful. He is halfway up his driveway when I hear him scream out, "What in the world?" followed by him screaming, "Oh my god," as he is literally trying to fling the crap from his hand. I start running because I know he was going to instinctively look around, but I am out of there and my heart was jackhammering in my chest. I'm on a main road before I slow down to a normal walk, and I made it back home without any incident. And while this was 2 days ago, I honestly haven't quit laughing because this guy absolutely deserved it. Oh man, you are seriously super brave for doing that. There is no way in the world I would ever take that kind of risk. Like legitimately, you went to some serious lengths to get this guy back. And sure, I think he was kind of a jerk, but this might have been a bit of overkill if you ask me. Like sure, this guy was a massive jerk and he probably deserved it, but you really put yourself at a lot of risk for doing that in the first place. But regardless, I hope you're just careful overall because the guy you described sounds incredibly unhinged, and hopefully nothing else comes of this because you took a very calculated risk to get this guy back. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend is super mad at me for rejecting a fully work from home position that I had turned down in favor of working at the same company as him. But now I've been told that he might actually be cheating on me with someone who he has called his work wife. And at this point, I'm so blown away that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, 7 months ago, I resigned from a company that allowed me to work fully from home due to an unmatched working style. After that, I got an opportunity to work at the same company as my boyfriend, but in a completely different department and building. And I've been working there now for 3 months. My boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years and currently live together. So I asked him if he would commute to and from work together using his car, and I, of course, told him I'd help with gas and other expenses. And while he was reluctant at first, which is something I didn't think much about at the time, he did eventually agree. Fast forward to last month, and my previous company reached out and asked if I would be interested in returning. However, due to some miscommunication from human resources that I found really unprofessional, I ended up rejecting the offer. When I told my boyfriend, he got extremely mad. He started acting cold and distant, and he even told me I should go back to my old company so I could work from home and take care of the house. I was devastated. I tried to talk to him and ask what was wrong, but he kept distancing himself and shutting me down. What I didn't expect was his best friend, who works in the same department as him, reaching out to me to say that there's something that I should know. He told me that my boyfriend might be cheating on me with one of his coworkers. Apparently, there's a girl in his department he's really close with, and their coworkers even tease her as his work wife. His best friend told me that before I joined the company, my boyfriend used to drive this work wife home. My boyfriend told his best friend and other coworkers that I knew about it and that there was nothing going on between them, but I had no idea. I was dumbfounded. I never suspected anything. There were no signs or suspicious behavior from him, or maybe I was just being ignorant. His best friend said that he doesn't have any proof of cheating, and he told me he didn't want to stress me out or accuse his best friend without evidence, but he noticed I haven't been doing well lately due to the fight. He also said that he's been cheated on before and doesn't want to go through the same thing. He told me he had warned my boyfriend about the whole work-wife thing before, but my boyfriend just brushed it off and continued the whole work-husband-wife dynamic. I honestly don't know what to do anymore. My boyfriend is still cold and distant. If he really is cheating on me, I feel like I need to find some kind of evidence first. I really love him, but this whole situation situation is tearing me apart, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think the original poster is 100% correct. If they're gonna jump to some kind of conclusion, they need evidence, because with no evidence, this will only backfire in an awful way. Seriously, this is not something you want to play with. I really just would not go forward without any kind of proof that something's going on, or at least having some kind of discussion about it. But also, on the other side of this, I think it is super important to remember who talked to you about what's going on. This is his best friend we're talking about. This isn't someone who's like pining after you to try and like break up your relationship or anything like that. And it doesn't sound like anyone who's like super involved in your life specifically. So for them to come up to you and be like, hey, your boyfriend's acting weird and he might be cheating on you, like that's something you really should take note of and not ignore, because there's no way this best friend would say something unless there was something actually concerning going on. An idiotic salesman ruins his sales presentation as he literally disrespects me in a way that is absolutely unacceptable, resulting in me buying from his competition in a way that he truly will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, I'm a relatively young professor with most of my colleagues about to retire, and I was hired shortly after getting my PhD almost 10 years ago, and I'm now leading a group of young researchers in the biological sciences. I also don't have the professor vibe and can pass off as one of my research staff and graduate students. Also, I don't wear semi-casuals and would opt to wearing something I find really comfortable. During the day when this story occurred, I was wearing a t-shirt, shorts, and running shoes. Now, in one of my projects, I wanted to purchase a microscope with a camera system, so I asked my staff to look for one. We've had 3 different suppliers, but we got excited with the offer of this one supplier. So my staff arranged for their visit and demo of the microscope on the day I'm not teaching at 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, I'm not a morning person, but I do have several appointments in the afternoon that day, so 10 o'clock is my only available schedule. Fast forward to the demo day and the supplier arrived 20 minutes late. When they arrived in my office, I was introduced by my staff to them, and then they introduced themselves to me with coffee and donuts. Now, I really hate people being late to their appointments with me, and I find it really disrespectful, but I brushed it off as I wanted the demo to be over soon. I said we moved to the lab where they can do the microscope demo, and when we're settled in the room, I got really confused as I was anticipating a demo, but they didn't even bring the microscope. What they brought was a sheet of paper with a price quotation of the microscope that we don't have the budget to pay for, and not even the microscope model that we intended to buy. My staff were already tensed at this point, as they can already sense my growing anger about what was happening. In any case, I still asked several questions about the specifications and possible applications about the model that they're offering, as there might be an opportunity to purchase that model soon too. The salesperson approached me by describing the model, and then they rattled off all the details about it before ending it by saying doctor. He then blurted out correcting himself by saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just so used to talking with doctors." Now, usually I don't really have a problem with people not addressing me properly with doctor or professor, but this guy corrected himself in such a condescending manner that even my staff were caught off guard. And I know they smelled trouble after that remark, because if you're counting, this is offense number 3. Shortly after that, I excused myself and I told them I needed to attend other matters. They handed over their business cards and I leave, but return to the lab room with my card too. Yes, it does have PhD after my name, telling them to contact me with a new quotation and send me their own photos taken under their microscope system. Well, that afternoon I felt really petty, especially for the condescension that I got, so I told my staff that the supplier has been very disrespectful with our time and for not even following through with the demo. I then told them to get the microscope system but from the other supplier. Now, from where we are at, only 2 suppliers are authorized to sell their brand, and their main office from another country said that we cannot transact with the other supplier as the first disrespectful supplier has already made contact. I then told my staff to tell the main office that I don't want to do my business with the first supplier, and that if they won't allow us to transact with the second supplier, then neither supplier will get the deal, as we are buying a different microscope camera system from a different company. Now, of course, rather than losing sales, they agree with my terms and gave the second supplier the go signal to transact with us. Now, all of us were really happy about it, as the second supplier was really professional and they were actually accommodating. They gave us a discount, the process was really smooth sailing, and yeah, they were able to lend us with 2 demo microscopes for a month, which is quite a treat, because you know what, the first guys were complete morons, and they missed out on a sale that they could have easily gotten. Yeah, that's pretty stupid from that first supplier, because they could have easily gotten a really good sale for like very little effort. All they had to do was do the demo and actually show off the product, and these people would have been like, oh yeah, let's buy it from you. So good for you for getting this petty revenge, because from the sounds of it, they absolutely deserved it. My sister's upset about my stepdaughter's inheritance that she got from my mom, leaving me and the rest of the family in a weird situation, as I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my stepdaughter has been in my life ever since she was 12 years old. She is autistic and really struggles to express her emotions, as well as affection complexion and tone. She often comes off robotic or cold unless she actively tries otherwise. Despite her issues and not being blood, she got really close with my mother. Despite the shorter time, my mom really saw my stepdaughter as a granddaughter and as real as the other ones. And while my stepdaughter doesn't show it physically, she really loved her. My mom passed away 2 months ago and had decided to leave my stepdaughter all of her jewelry and books. However, because of her condition, my stepdaughter didn't show any emotion or hurt. With my mother supposedly favoring her over my nieces and nephew, my family got really offended by her lack of visible care. To put in polite terms, my sister thinks the jewelry should go to my nieces, since my stepdaughter clearly doesn't care according to her. While they can accept splitting the money, in my sister's eyes, the mementos should not go to someone so heartless. Obviously, not crying doesn't mean she doesn't care, but they are not seeing it that way. I thought they would calm down if I gave them time to process their grief and everything, so I've mostly just left it aside from making it clear that my stepdaughter loved her. But yesterday, my siblings let me know that she isn't allowed to come to Easter with the rest of the family. But specifically, it's her, my daughter, and I are still welcome apparently. Now, I am pretty furious about this, but I don't want to just burn it all down and cut them off. My sister has been there for me in the past, and normally she isn't like this. And so right now, I just don't know how to deal with this. I get if they don't understand her quirks, but they need to at least respect her and understand that she isn't what they think. How can I fix their misunderstanding and hurt? What should I do? Okay, first off, the way they're treating your stepdaughter is so disgusting. Like seriously, there's no excuse for this. I don't care what they're going through or how much grief they're dealing with. This is completely inappropriate behavior. Just because the stepdaughter isn't reacting the exact same way the sister's acting, it doesn't mean that they don't care. It just means they react to things differently than you do. So the fact that they want to be like, oh yeah, she can't show up for Easter and do all this other stuff, like that is so disturbing, it's not even funny. So truly, I'm not sure how you can fix this misunderstanding, but I know if I was in your shoes, there is no way I would ever show up for Easter with any of these people, especially if they're gonna be making these weird assumptions. My mom thinks that I'm an intelligent computer programmer, but in reality, I'm a criminal, and I'm debating on whether or not I should come clean, or if I should keep lying to her and still give her money. Here's what happened. About 3 years ago, right before I graduated from high school, my dad passed away. It had been a difficult time for me, my brother, and my mom. There was barely any money since my dad was the main breadwinner, and after he passed, my mom struggled a lot, and seeing that really made me want to do something about it. I had always been good with computers, but not to the level my mom now imagines. After my dad passed, I became desperate for money. I tried all sorts of stuff from freelancing to web development to video editing to music production, but I wasn't really making any real money to improve me or my family's situation. I looked deeper and I got more desperate, and I even tried to sell illegal substances online, if you know what I mean, since I was way too scared to do it in person. But that didn't work out either. During all that web surfing, I found some dark hat, gray hat communities and got into some stuff that was more of a gray area than anything else. This is stuff like botnets and clickbots, etc., and I would mostly receive money for services, and I made quite the amount of money. Now, a lot of this stuff is explicitly illegal, and there haven't really been a lot of people that have gotten into trouble for it, since it kind of dances between the lines of legal and illegal depending on what you're doing. It's not likely to get in trouble for it, but it's still a possibility, and I believe I can take the risk, and I'm not very paranoid about getting in trouble. The money has been great. I've been able to help my mother out a lot, but the issue is that she's gotten alarmed at the amount I'm making, and I've repeatedly lied to her that I've made this money freelancing online. I've showed her website templates and lied that I built them, and I've even now gone as far as to edit invoices of how much I got paid because I think she's getting worried. It's honestly eating me up inside having to lie to my mother this much, and hearing her tell her sisters and stuff that I'm so good with computers and I'm making clean money is just what makes me sad. So do I come clean or do I just keep on lying? Because right now I honestly don't know what to do. Honestly, I think it really would be better to try and figure out another profession, because what you're doing, as you have literally described it, is illegal. I just don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's a good long-term plan. And sure, for now it helped your family out in the short term, but I just don't see that as a long-term option for you or your family. Like seriously, if there's even a chance that you might get arrested for this kind of thing, is it really worth putting your family and your life at risk just to get more money for your mom? And sure, there's a debate there of yeah, it is worth it, but in my opinion, I just don't think it is. So truly, I hope you're able to find a better job than this, because this sounds incredibly sketchy. My mom paid people to come hide 100 Easter eggs on my property without my permission, and now my husband's incredibly pissed off, whereas I'm just kind of used to this and I don't think it's that big of a deal. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that my mom is a narcissist, and we have had many issues since my son was born. So my husband has some very strong feelings against her, and he may be making a bigger deal out of this than it really is. I found out today that my mom hired some people to come hide 100 100 eggs in our front yard as a fundraiser. She only told me because she was required to give them my number so they can call me when they arrive since our property is gated. My son is only 16 months old, and we've had many discussions about how he probably won't last too long hunting eggs, and so I'm only going to put out maybe 12 of them. We're doing 3 separate egg hunts between our house and the grandparents too. Well, my husband is furious and asked me to call her to see if she could cancel it. I called and explained that 100 eggs is a lot, that I would end up having to pick up all of them. We also don't allow him to eat candy, and we don't need 100 eggs worth of candy either. I also told her how since they will show up after bedtime Saturday, our dog will probably bark and wake our son up. She told me that we have a big yard and that 100 eggs isn't a lot, that they're also going to be leaving a basket with a note from the Easter Bunny. She then said she would call and ask them to leave less eggs, but that she wouldn't cancel it, and that she knew that this would just destroy her for doing this. And honestly, I know why my husband is so angry. My mom pushes limits and wants to do more than anyone else at holidays. She likes to be able to post on social media about how great she is, and in fact, she has spent more than $400 on our son for Easter. She didn't even ask if it was okay to set this up. We are also leaving for vacation on Monday. We will be doing Easter celebrations on Friday with my in-laws and Saturday with my family. I designated Sunday for just my husband, my son, and I to be packing for our trip. So now I will also have to clean up Easter eggs from our yard. So I get why he's mad, but I also feel like it's easier to just get over it. I will ask the people doing it on Saturday evening to just leave like 15 eggs and give the rest to another family. I don't feel like it's a big enough issue to deal with her backlash if I cause a scene with her over it. And it makes me angry, but I'm used to her overstepping. This is the least of my worries with her, and one day I will cut her off and out of our lives. Okay, in my opinion, I think you're really going easy on your mom. I think your husband's 100% correct. She's overstepping boundaries and you're just like letting it happen. Because think about it, this is literally not her property, it's not her kid, which is also super annoying, and she's trying to like dictate this without your permission. If someone scheduled something like that for me, I would lose my mind. I would be so pissed off, it's not even funny. And I personally can understand why your husband's so pissed off as well. He literally is seeing this happen and he's like, wait, this is not normal behavior. There's no reason you should have to put up with this, and the fact that you are is just infuriating. Because this guy's probably like, wait a second, why is my wife's mom again getting involved with something else? Not to mention the fact that you're doing nothing to stop this, but instead you're deciding, oh, I'm just gonna put up with it. It's not worth the time, I'm used to this. Well, guess what? Your husband isn't, and you're just sitting there doing nothing? Like, really? So yeah, you say you know why your husband's angry, but it doesn't seem like you care at all. And just because you're used to her weird behavior does not mean that the rest of your family should have to put up with it. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.